My girlfriend is acting obsessed with this random family she just met. I figured I should ask for advice because this situation is really weird and I have no idea how to handle it. My girlfriend Maggie and I have been together for just 3 months, so our relationship is still very new. Things have been going well aside from this problem. A few weeks ago, Maggie started a new job and quickly became friends with her new coworker Joe. For the record, I have no problem with Maggie having male friends. I have female friends and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But Maggie and Joe seemed unusually close after a very short amount of time. Like Maggie was telling me that she was scoping out her coworkers to see who all business was and who she could joke around with and maybe become better friends with. She said it would be pretty easy though, because Joe was telling her who was cool. But Maggie barely knows Joe, so why does she trust him so much? Maggie and Joe were hanging out so much outside of work that I actually did feel a little weird about it. I then found out that aside from work they usually hung out with Joe's wife and kids, which made cheating unlikely but was still really weird. Most people don't have near strangers hanging out with their little kids that much. Maggie has been putting this family above other friends, like when she waited on RSVPing to a friend's party until she could nail down other plans with Joe and his family. The plans with Joe's family were very vague and hadn't been decided yet, but Maggie was willing to miss her friend's party if it was the only time Joe's family was available. I met them for the first time, and it was very bizarre. Maggie isn't a big fan of kids but she was all over Joe's kids. She got down on the floor and crawled around with the baby. The older kid was very shy and didn't seem that comfortable with me, but she got very excited when she saw Maggie and climbed into Maggie's lap, so Maggie has obviously spent a lot of time with the family in the past few weeks. The older kid calls Maggie Auntie. Maggie once told me she didn't like babysitting and always tries to get out of it, but apparently she has babysat for them, and she refuses to take money for babysitting. This is just so out of character for her. They also made some weird jokes about Maggie coming to live in their basement, which was really weird in combination with everything else that is going on. Hopefully that was just a joke. For Thanksgiving, we decided to just celebrate with our own families because we haven't been together that long. Joe and his family weren't able to travel far to meet their own family, so Maggie invited them to her parents' house. That's very kind, but it was a couple hours away and they all slept over, so it wasn't a casual trip. Some pictures were taken, including a posed one of Maggie and Joe's family, with the older kid hugging Maggie's shoulders. Maggie made a comment about how she was glad her chosen family could come to Thanksgiving. It is beyond bizarre, she barely knows these people. She has been in the new job just under 2 months and somehow become absorbed into this random family. And this is so out of character. She told me once that she hates it when people she doesn't know well insist on hugging her, or how cheaply some people say I love you, but she is taking this up to 11. She is fretting right now because the oldest kid's birthday is coming, and Maggie apparently needs to get that kid a birthday and a Christmas gift for the baby, too. The only gift I'd ever gotten a coworker's kid is when they had a baby shower at work. I don't even know how to bring this up. I know her friendships aren't really my business, but this is so strange it's making me uncomfortable, so I feel like I have to say something, but I don't even know what to say. Maggie cheating on me with Joe would actually make more sense than this. Any advice? This isn't normal, right? Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Honestly, this is probably her character and not out of character like you say. You even said that you guys have been dating for 3 months. 3 months is the first milestone to make a decision about moving the relationship forward or not. So, you have a responsibility here to objectively assess your relationship. One thought that crossed my mind would be Joe's family would love for her to live in their basement as a childcare provider, so they may be taking advantage of her for their benefit. Your GF may be trying to show off in front of you to show that she is lovable/respected by people. Many possibilities. I would advise you to cool down the relationship. Give her space to make decisions about her life and relationship. If she actively chooses to spend more and more time with Joe's family, you have your answer. 3 months is time to decide the future of a relationship, like I said previously. Good luck. Remind yourself what you deserve in a girlfriend better than this. Reply, I just don't know. She said pretty clearly that she doesn't want kids, doesn't like them that much, and resents that as a young woman, people just assume she likes kids and would like to babysit. Maybe she was lying and really does like kids. But I don't know why anyone would lie about that. Even if she liked babysitting, I don't have any reason to care about that. I don't think Maggie would ever consider being their permanent childcare provider. She is a professional with a full-time job that she really likes and went to school for years to be able to do, not a nanny or someone looking for work. I'm just so confused. And she won't even take money from them, so she can't make a living that way. Commenter 2, what are your ages? Usually 20s are for questioning beliefs. I also said I didn't want kids blah blah blah, but I do and I love kids. So it wasn't a lie, I was just seeing what really felt right for me. If your relationship was serious, 3 months is the perfect time to meet each other's families. But you think it's too soon, however you also feel like you know her pretty well. Could you have a sit-down conversation with her? Reply, we are almost 30, so not extremely young anymore. I could understand if this was a more gradual change with her feelings on kids, but she went from refusing to ever babysit and not liking kids at all to a week later saying she loves these kids and will babysit for free and even suggesting it herself. And I think it's just these kids. She made a comment that might have been a joke, but I'm not sure, that Joe shouldn't tell anyone at work about the babysitting because other people would want Maggie you babysit for their kids and she didn't want to. I would understand more if there was a gradual change, like if she agreed to babysit once in an emergency and realized that babysitting could be fun and was open to doing it again, but it seems like she has always volunteered and refused to take money for something that a few weeks ago she said she hated and would never do. This whole thing would be much less weird if it took place over a longer period of time and could allow for a change of heart, but she met these people a few weeks ago and is suddenly changing her behavior. Our relationship is new and even I've known her longer than she's known Joe. To each their own, but I wouldn't meet a girlfriend's family after 3 months. Especially during a major holiday with extended family. Maggie agreed with that too. It's just off to me that she put so much importance on Joe's family coming. Final update. As a quick summary, I thought something weird was going on with my girlfriend Maggie, who became quickly and extremely close to her new coworker Joe and his wife Kate. After just a couple weeks, she was trusting Joe with everything work-related, babysitting their children for free and buying them gifts, having the kids call her auntie, putting this family above her other friends, inviting the family to Maggie's family Thanksgiving, and referring to them as her chosen family. I thought that either this whole thing was some kind of cover for an affair or Maggie had attachment issues. I figured out what was going on and I feel like a huge idiot. I went to see Maggie to ask for an explanation and figured if I didn't like what I heard I'd break up with her, because either she was cheating or had an emotional issue I couldn't handle. I had the opportunity when I saw the gifts Maggie had gotten for Joe and Kate's kids. It seemed so strange for someone who doesn't really like kids that much to go so overboard for kids she just met. I asked Maggie why she gave the kids such special treatment even though she doesn't really like kids that much. Maggie explained that she felt differently about these kids because she had been around to watch them grow and was close to Joe and Kate, so the kids are more like family to her, which means she treats them differently than other kids and they're the exception to the rule. Maggie said she'd probably tone it down eventually, but since they were so young she wanted to get them something really nice for Christmas. I wasn't really sure what to say next because it seemed so irrational, but then Maggie said that she used to exchange Christmas gifts with Joe and Kate too, but that they had all decided it was too much trouble and unnecessary, so these days she usually bakes them something or gets them a nice bottle of wine. I realized I was missing something important. If Maggie had other Christmases with Joe's family, she couldn't have just met them like I thought. I had thought that Maggie might have emotional issues that made her attach herself to people she barely knew, but I didn't think Maggie was actually crazy enough to imagine that she knew them before. I didn't want to ask, so I acted normally until I left. When I got home, I went through Maggie's Facebook. She wasn't lying and she's not crazy. I found a ton of photos with Joe and Kate going back a decade. From what I can figure out, they all went to college together. Joe and Maggie were big brother and little sister in a co-ed frat/sorority, and Maggie and Kate were roommates. I also found pictures of Maggie as a bridesmaid in Joe and Kate wedding and pictures of Maggie holding their newborn children, so they are obviously close friends who have known each other for a long time. All of Maggie's behavior makes perfect sense now that I know all this. I think this whole thing is my fault. I have ADHD and I don't handle it well. I've had issues when people are talking to me for a while, where I start zoning them out. I've been called out for this before. I think it's pretty likely that Maggie did tell me about Joe and Kate and I just wasn't listening. Maggie hasn't actually done anything wrong or creepy, so I think it's more likely that I wasn't listening when Maggie explained instead of this being a trick. This was a pretty big wake-up call for me. I've been ignoring my problem because I didn't want to face facts that it was serious, but I know I need to do something before I make any more mistakes. I'm going to start off by looking for a therapist. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Wow, this is Sixth Sense level kind of twist. If this story is true, it's more than ADHD. I get being distracted and not listening properly, but this is something else. Reply, I really think it's just ADHD. I've made big mistakes before because I tuned out at the wrong moment. Maggie probably didn't realize, but other people can tell and will call me out and tell me what I missed. She probably explained who Joe and Kate were the first time she mentioned them when I wasn't listening, and every other time she mentioned them made sense to her but not to me because I was only paying attention when she talked about Joe as the coworker. So I kept thinking of Joe as just the coworker. Commenter 2, I mean, did you ask her why she spent so much time at their place, especially a coworker? Why is she acting like they are best friend? If they are friend for a decade, how long have you two been together and why have you never heard of them? Reply, I was going to ask that but I didn't know how to bring it up because it was so weird. I've only been with Maggie for 3 months. I don't know her whole life. We only started meeting some of each other's friends a few weeks ago and there's still a bunch I haven't met yet. The first time I remember hearing about Joe was when she talked about her new job from a couple weeks ago. So I thought Joe was just a coworker because I had never heard of him before. But I was only with Maggie a couple weeks before the job started, so it's possible she only mentioned Joe and Kate once and I tuned out at the wrong time. This hasn't been going on for years. It only got really weird enough for me to look for help when I saw Maggie's Thanksgiving pictures. Commenter 3. Imagine an alternate universe where you just went, so, how long have you guys known each other? Commenter 4. I'm glad you're getting some help. Sorry you had to go through this confusion. I must admit, this is an entertaining twist in the story. Commenter 5. I hope this post helps others see the bias of this subreddit. Everyone automatically assumes the OP is telling them everything they need to know, which is ironic because in almost all conflicts there is misunderstanding. Where there is misunderstanding there is often missing information. Commenters usually take the side of OP. Statically, it is very improbable that only people who are more in the right come to post on Reddit relationship advice subs. Good on you for coming back here and owning up to a personal issue that you can now properly address. Awareness is half the battle. Best wishes. Commenter 6. I don't understand why you jumped to the conclusion that she just met them. Reply, it was the fact that Joe is also Maggie's new coworker that threw me off. If it hadn't been for that, I probably would have assumed that Maggie was a family friend. But I looked at the situation just viewing Joe as a new coworker, so Maggie's behavior seemed really weird. Commenter 7. Next time you're confused about your GF's relationships or other things, just say, I'm sorry, maybe I wasn't paying good enough attention when you told me, but why are you, insert confusing issue here. You'll find that, half the time, people will admit they forgot to tell you something really important. Or they will be basically okay with the fact that you sometimes space out, as long as you're honest about it. Stories number 2. I 30F changed into a step-forward wife, no longer happy with my marriage, but I think it's basically my fault. My husband 35M and I have been together for 4 years. We have 1 young child together. I'm not happy in my marriage anymore and I think it's mostly my fault. I changed a lot over the last few years, especially since becoming a mother, and my husband is the same guy he has always been. When we were dating we were sexually adventurous, had threesomes and poly relationships, and basically lived a party life while maintaining respectable, professional jobs. I loved that my husband didn't judge me for being very sexually adventurous, as other men had, and he didn't expect me to have a traditional housewife role. He didn't care if I cooked or cleaned and was fine with having a messy house and eating a lot of takeout. But as I've gotten older and become a mother, I find myself strongly desiring a more traditional lifestyle. I don't have any interest in sex with other people outside our relationship, and I want our house to be clean and comfortable, and I want to eat healthy, nutritious food. My husband appreciates all the cooking and cleaning I do, but it's not important to him and he doesn't help out. I am growing more and more resentful that I can't motivate him to do basic cleaning tasks around the house. It's not like I enjoy cleaning either, but I really want our child to grow up in a nice home. I also had to stop drinking and using all recreational drugs when I got pregnant, and I never started again. My husband still, in my opinion, drinks to excess, and occasionally likes to go out and take drugs with his friends. When he does this I get very angry with him, and his response is that I have the freedom to take a night off from parenting and do the same if I choose to. I feel like we have really grown apart and have very little in common these days outside of managing a shared household. I don't feel very close to him or emotionally connected. I don't look forward to spending time with him. When we have long periods of time together, like car rides, we don't talk anymore. We each put on headphones and listen to podcasts or audiobooks. In fact, sometimes we'll each independently put on the same podcast, but listen to it separately. When I noticed this, it seemed symbolic of the rest of our lives. We are so separate these days. Our sex life is okay, our finances are in good order, and we get along very well with each other's families. We went to counseling about a year ago and things improved marginally for a very short time, but we ran out of things to talk about with the counselor and the improvements disappeared quickly. What do I do? Do I stay in this marriage I feel indifferent to? I miss feeling in love. But I don't want to tear my family apart. TLDR, I changed into a step-forward wife and resent my husband for not changing with me. Not his fault, but I'm unhappy and don't know what to do. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, is your husband bonded with his kid? Does he take them to the park without you and bath them and tuck them in at night? Also, are you working or are you a stay-at-home mom? It seems like many Psalms have trouble finding interesting things to talk about since their world is so small, generally. Reply, I work full-time. My husband and I each have very demanding careers. I would say my husband and daughter have a good bond, but I get the impression that parenthood is a lot more work and less fun than he anticipated. I think perhaps he had an overly rosy view of things. He does love her and enjoy spending time with her, but not in the same way that I do. OOP responds to a long comment. Reply, before kids, date night could happen whenever. After kids, it takes more work to find the time. Figure out how to go on that drive. Make the time to be with each other. If you are listening to the same podcast, make a mini discussion date afterward. I think this is getting closer to the crux of my feelings about all this. The housework etc. is all problematic, but really I miss having any kind of closeness. It bothers me a lot that my husband either doesn't notice or doesn't care. Sometimes I schedule date nights into our weekly planner, and he spends the date playing with his phone or just being quiet. We had one good date night that I can remember in the last year. The rest have all been duds that left me feeling even sadder and lonelier than before. Commenter, you didn't change into a step-forward wife. You grew up. When you have a kid, it's no longer acceptable, to put your life, livelihood, and lack of a criminal record in danger by taking recreational drugs. It's no longer okay to eat shitty food and live in filth. Someone depends on you now, and you don't get night here you pretend you're not a parent, suck it up. I think y'all need a chore chart, and I think you need to share parenting duties better. I.e. for every night he goes out, you go out a different night. Every time. Which, hopefully, should give him an idea of what sacrifice means. And I think if he keeps taking drugs, you should seriously think about leaving him. Reply, I have gone back and forth about whether to reply to this comment because I have seen a lot of times on this subreddit, when OPs start to reply they get downvoted a lot and eviscerated. I am really sensitive about this issue so I guess I will just say, if you are going to respond please keep that in mind, I don't have a thick skin about this. I just want to clarify a few things. First, we didn't and won't ever live in filth. The cleaning issues are more things like, keep all surfaces clear and wipe down with a cloth every day, put dishes straight into dishwasher instead of piling up for a few days, laundry every 1 to 2 days instead of every 1 to 2 weeks. And the recreational drugs aren't like shooting up heroin, more like getting together with his friend who has an Adderall prescription and taking Adderall and smoking weed and drinking whiskey while playing video games. I think it's kind of immature and lame, but I wouldn't leave him over that issue specifically. I understand your point about me going out too, but I don't think it really solves anything if I make a point of going out each time he does just to keep score. He does spend time with our child when I ask him to or when I have to work late or when I have actual plans not plans that I make up to keep score with him. But for the most part one don't think he enjoys parenting the way I do, and our parenting will always be imbalanced for that reason. I do it because I love it, and he does it because he has to. Commenter, but for the most part one don't think he enjoys parenting the way I do, and our parenting will always be imbalanced for that reason. I do it because I love it, and he does it because he has to. I don't think it should be imbalanced for that reason. Frankly, I don't think it matters why either of you parent. For the sake of said child, I think it's important that you both do, equally, period. I don't think it really solves anything if I make a point of going out each time he does just to keep score. I do. I think he needs to learn that you both work, you both need friends, and you both parent. And one parent has to sacrifice so the other can go out, and that ought to be equal. And he will, I suspect, be more egalitarian about leaving you to go party when he is forced to understand that it comes with the price of being left alone to parent an equal amount. Reply, I think maybe I'm not communicating well here. I don't have a problem with him going out because it's a sacrifice for me to stay home with my daughter. I love the time I spend with her, and that's not a sacrifice at all. I think the reason it bothers me when he goes out and does drugs is deeper and more emotional. it feels like he still has and likes and wants this old lifestyle that I'm not part of anymore. I don't even really want to be part of it, but it still feels bad knowing that he does. I understand your points about trying to make things fair, with exactly equal numbers of nights out and exactly equal amounts of time spent parenting, but I just don't think relationships work like that. I think it becomes very toxic to being count and spreadsheet each other like that. Commenter, it feels like he still has and likes and wants this old lifestyle that I'm not part of anymore. I don't even really want to be part of it, but it still feels bad knowing that he does. He might feel a sort of abandonment too, and that things were easier when you were both living your life in that style. Do you think he's receptive to going back to counseling? These issues don't sound unresolvable, just not well communicated and discussed. Reply, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. He has said he misses the old me. He would definitely go back to counseling if I asked him to. The last time we were there it got to a point where there was a lot of dead air, and I think we both felt like it wasn't that productive anymore. Commenter, what brought you two together? You really only described the freedom he was comfortable with and that you fit all right in each other's lives. Reply, honestly a lot of what brought us together was partying and having sexual adventures. That's the main reason I brought it up in the OP, although I think people have misconstrued this to mean that he is partying so much now that it's interfering with his parenting. I worry that now we just don't have anything in common, although that's more just the pessimistic, frustrated, lonely part of me talking. We still have similar interests, read the same books, listen to the same podcasts, work out together and similar goals. We own a business together, are working toward buying a house, have a great plan for retirement and similar parenting philosophies. I will try asking him the questions about where we'll be in X years. Those are good questions. Commenter, on a final note, have you considered hiring a housekeeper? It sounds like you could afford to do so, and it would probably save you time and help you feel less resentful if you weren't solely responsible for housework. Reply, yeah, from the replies here it is starting to sound like a housekeeper is a good solution. If I am really honest with myself, I have felt a lot of pressure to have it all and to show that I can manage my career and house, and that has made me reluctant to hire professional help. But if throwing some money at the problem will really help, I think we should just do that. To a longer comment. Reply, before we had our daughter we talked about ways that we could continue to do the things we were doing, occasional recreational drug use, polyandrous relationships, etc. in a way that would be safe and responsible. For instance, we have a responsible parent policy. If one parent is using recreational drugs including alcohol, or takes a sleeping pill, or does anything else that takes them out of commission for parenting, that parent has to clear it with the other parent, and the other parent has to be the responsible parent until the other one is back in good shape. We also had a plan that every week, there would be mom's night out, dad's night out, and date night for mom and dad with a sitter. The reality is just so different. The competent, professional sitters in our area charge a minimum of $15 per hour with a 4-hour minimum, which is not a practical expense to have a weekly basis. I don't think either of us can get it together to go out for a recreational event every week. Update post. I did not expect to be posting back so soon, especially because I didn't do anything. But I think my husband was also feeling the distance and the tension between us. Today, I snapped at him over a minor household issue, and he asked to be alone in our office for a while. While he was in there, he reorganized the entire office, a massive project, and took care of filing about a year's worth of paperwork that had just piled up. He paid some bills that were my responsibility out of his personal account we used his system for our finances. And he balanced my retirement portfolio, a project I've been putting off for way too long because it stressed me out. Then, he went out to pick up some dinner, and over dinner we talked about a family vacation we want to take together soon, which he offered to plan and pay for. As soon as he walked out of our house to pick up dinner, I broke down in tears. I think it was just the realization that he has his own way of showing he loves me, and sometimes I get so absorbed in my own thoughts and feelings, and so burdened by the weight of my responsibilities, that I don't even notice how much he does. Anyway, sorry this isn't a more dramatic update. I can see now that my husband and I need to work more on connecting with each other, but we are both still in it to win it. And even though he sucks at showing it sometimes, I know he loves me and is devoted to our family. TLDR, my party animal husband balanced my retirement portfolio for me, and it was the wake-up call I needed to realize he does love me and we can get through this rough patch. Edit to add, to everyone commenting and sending me private messages telling me that I'm spoiled because I don't work, I have a demanding and successful full-time job. I work as many or more hours than my husband and am an equal contributor to our finances. Shame on you for assuming that, because I'm a woman, I don't work. Some of OOP's comments. Top commenter, I'm glad things are looking up for you. I didn't read the earlier post, but have you heard of the book The 5 Love Languages? It basically presents this theory that everyone shows their love through one of 5 ways, languages, and that so many problems in relationships especially pertaining to he doesn't love me / do anything nice for me / etc. can be helped by understanding your partner's love language. I seriously think both of you should read it and talk about it. I also think that you both should consider at least a couple sessions of marital counseling. Reply, thank you. I have actually read the 5 Love Languages book, and really my husband and I have similar languages, so everything was hunky-dory while we were dating. I think he tends to get in ruts where he starts taking our relationship for granted, and he isn't using any of the love languages, and maybe I do the same thing too, sometimes. I think the trick is to just keep trying, keep talking, keep letting each other know how we feel, and not getting swept up in the tides of work and parenting and everything else that can so easily overwhelm and subsume simple acts of love and kindness toward each other. Commenter, side note, I hope the reason people are assuming you don't work is because you use the term Stepford wife, which to my mind means stay-at-home mom who does nothing but cook and clean and polish her silver all day. Reply, that's fair. I guess I overreacted due to all the PMs telling me I should kill myself and my husband should divorce me. Also, this is a problem I regularly have in real life, almost everyone my husband and I meet assumes I don't work. My job is super important to me and a huge part of my identity, so it is hard not to take offense. Stories number 3. Aita for refusing to let my dad move in after he made my wife cry during dinner. So here's some context. My dad 68M has always had kind of a sharp tongue. Growing up, I remember him being critical about everything, my grades, my hobbies, even the way I dressed. He wasn't the warm, encouraging type of dad. He's the guy who thinks brutal honesty is a personality trait. Fast forward to now. I'm 34M, married to my wife 32F, who is honestly my best friend and the kindest person I know. She's been incredibly patient with my family over the years, even though they can be a lot. We've built a quiet, happy little home together. Recently, my dad has been struggling financially. He had some bad business decisions, debt piling up, and his health hasn't been the best either. He asked if he could move in with us. My wife and I sat down and had a serious talk. Neither of us really wanted the stress, but we said okay, as long as he respected the fact that this is our home and he needed to treat my wife with respect. And then came his trial run, aka, the very first dinner he had at our place. We cooked a simple meal, nothing fancy, just some roasted chicken, potatoes, salad. My wife worked on it after her long shift because she wanted to make a nice welcome dinner for him. We all sit down, and within 2 bites my dad goes, "Well, this is kind of bland, isn't it? Do you even use seasoning? I hope you don't cook like this every night." I froze, because I knew where this was going. My wife kind of laughed it off nervously and said, "Oh, I guess I kept it mild tonight." But he didn't stop there. A little while later, he looks at her across the table and says, "You've really let yourself go since the wedding. Didn't recognize you at first. Guess married life's been too good to you, huh?" My wife went quiet, excused herself, and I later found her crying in the bathroom. She almost never cries like that, so I knew it hit her hard. I saw red. I told my dad that his comments were cruel, unnecessary, and completely out of line. And what does he do? Shrugs and says, "What? I'm just being honest. Don't be so sensitive." That was it for me. I told him flat out, if he couldn't show basic respect on the first night, then there was no way he was moving in with us. Period. Now, he's calling me ungrateful. He keeps bringing up how he raised me and that I owe him a place to stay. My mom is also guilt-tripping me, saying, "He's your father, you should suck it up." Family is family. But here's the thing, my wife is my family too. She's my primary family. And I'll be damned if I let anyone, even my own father, turn our home into a place where she feels belittled or unsafe. The guilt is creeping in, though. I know my dad doesn't have many options right now, and part of me feels like maybe I'm being too harsh. But then I replay that dinner in my head and think, if this is how he behaves on day 1, how toxic would it get if he actually lived with us? So, Reddit, Aita for refusing to let my dad move in after he made my wife cry during dinner. Comments. Commenter 1. Nor he can be as honest as he wants and say whatever he wants to say, but that does not make him immune from consequences. It is so sad that a man gets to this age and just now is learning the concept of FAFO. He literally walked in and tried to take over, he did it on purpose to establish his dominance. He picked the most vulnerable person in the room and immediately zeroed in on her. This man is a bully. There is absolutely no reason for that honesty other than to hurt her. Your mother's opinion is completely invalid because it's not even any of her business to begin with. If they are still married, then that is her problem and she should quit dumping her issues on other people. If they're divorced, then she shouldn't be butting in with her opinion anyway because it's not her business anymore. She also doesn't get to dictate your wife's comfort and level of responsibility for this. She is not entitled to make decisions and sacrifices on other people's behalf. If she's that concerned, she can do it herself. Commenter 2. Exactly this. Tell your dad he's right, you're not grateful for the way he treated your wife. He doesn't get to come into your home and start being nasty to your wife, who was being a kind and gracious hostess. No one asked for his vicious opinions and bad manners. People who spout off like that hide behind the claim they're just being honest, ignoring the fact that no one asked to hear their opinions in the first place, and that what they say is in fact their opinion, and not objective truth like they're pretending it is. Also tell him he's the one who was ungrateful to both of you for allowing him to be a guest in your home, and to your wife for cooking him dinner. Tell him his power play backfired, and that he was a jerk and a bully and he owes your wife a massive apology. But even if he does apologize, don't let him move back in. He'll resent being put in his place and find another way to take it out on your poor wife. Protect her and your peaceful home at all costs. Stories number 4. Aita for putting my hand over my SIL's camera at my own birthday dinner after I told her no filming. I 29F had a small BD dinner last weekend with my husband 31M, SIL Lena 27F, MIL and 2 friends at a normal but nice place. Lena's an influencer. She films literally everything, plates, forks, PPL breathing. 3 days before, I wrote in a family chat, please don't film me. Food, room is fine, just not my face. She said got you. We sit down and within like 10 minutes her phone is up. I say quiet, please don't point it at me. She goes, you look great, it's just vibes. Husband backs me, she said no. Lena rolls her eyes, lowers it, for maybe 2 minutes. Then the cake comes little sparkler, staff singing. Lena stands and points the camera right in my face like, birthday girl reveal. I put my hand over the lens and said, stop. I didn't grab the phone or touch her, just covered the camera for a second. She snaps that I ruined her shot and this is her job. MIL says to let it go for one night. I said that it's my night, actually. It got awkward fast. Server was right there, I felt embarrassed. Husband tried to change the subject, but Lena kept muttering about how she had to scrap everything. I even paid for my own dessert. Long story and we left pretty quick. Next morning Lena texts that I humiliated her and made her look unprofessional in front of everyone. MIL says I should have moved seats if I didn't want to be in frame. Husband says my boundary is fair but maybe I made a scene by doing it during the song when eyes were already on me. She's posted me before without asking and coworkers mentioned it. I've asked her to blur/remove and it turns into drama, which is why I set the boundary in writing before dinner. Why I might be the public place, I did physically block her shot, and yeah it was during the song. I could have stood up and turned away or SMTH. But also, I don't want to be online against my will, ESP on my own birthday. Ick. Comments. Commenter 1. Lena texts that I humiliated her and made her look unprofessional in front of everyone. No, she made herself look unprofessional in front of everyone by behaving unprofessionally in front of everyone. Honestly, I would not invite her to things you host going forward until she can respect the most simple of requests, don't film me. NTA. Commenter 2. NTA. If she wants to look professional in public, she should act like a professional in public. A professional respects other people, their space, and their privacy. A professional knows how to separate their job and their personal life when needed. A professional isn't so desperate for content that she'll railroad other people's comfort and wishes. Is she really 27 or is she 17? You are not part of her job. She doesn't get to commandeer you as a prop for her videos, and she doesn't get to seize control over your own goddamn birthday event for it either. Commenter 3. Bahaha. Her job. Every idiot with a phone thinks they are an influencer. She does not have the right to use people without their permission as content. Your husband was wrong. You didn't make a scene. She did with her disrespect. You held your boundary and now she's but hurt. Frankly I would not share the same space with her. Seriously I would not attend any event that she was parents at and she would not be invited to any event hosted by me or for me. I would also report any post that showed my face every single time. I would also comment on her posts calling her out. Your husband owes you an apology. Stories number 5. Aita for bringing up how much trauma it causes to be hated by siblings for being affair babies. Me 20F and my sister 19F have half-siblings from our mom's first marriage to her late husband. When her late husband was terminally ill, she started an affair with our dad and her kids found out about it. I was born 2 years after mom's first husband died, but in the eyes of my older siblings, me and my sister were affair babies and they hated us for it. They told us every chance they got that we were disgusting and we never should have been born and that our mom and dad were disgusting worse. When my parents' marriage broke down when I was in middle school, my mom's older kids celebrated and they told us they were glad our lives were turned upside down too and that me and my sister didn't get a better life than them. They said we didn't deserve it and that they hoped we'd end up orphans because they would let us rot in foster care. We did lose our dad 3 years after the divorce and mom became an alcoholic. That was something else my older siblings cheered about. They love that mom is ruining her life. That was the last contact we had with them, but they were all completely grown and married by then. We were having a dinner party with my paternal family and my boyfriend and his immediate family. During dinner, a couple of my relatives asked me and my sister if we had tried to reach out to our older siblings recently and suggested that it would be good for us. My sister left the table in tears and I told those relatives it wasn't a good idea. They tried to convince me it would be and that enough time had passed for feelings to change, but I pointed out that it's a trauma for me and my sister with how strongly we were rejected and hated for being affair babies, which had nothing to do with us. I said we weren't even born during the affair period, but we'd never be anything more. And since our older siblings celebrated our lives going to shit multiple times when they were already adults, I didn't think it would be positive to have them in our lives. My boyfriend's family felt so bad for me being pressured like that. But one of the relatives involved doubled down and said it wasn't the kind of topic you discuss in company. By the topic they meant the trauma of being called affair babies and hated for it. They said it's also not fair to push that emotional burden on people trying to help me and my sister. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. They asked about reconnecting, and you just explained why it's not possible. You were honest about your experience, not rude. Reply. It's kind of funny that they brought it up first, but I'm the one who pushed it into inappropriate for company talk. Commenter 2. NTA. It's not the kind of topic you discuss in company. I agree. So what did you bring it up at dinner with guests present for, Betty? Commenter 3. You are not the one who brought the subject up in front of company. They were by their own standards the rude one. Reply. I know, which I find kind of funny. But I suppose they mean bringing up the trauma part only. Which isn't fair because their conversation made me mention it to begin with. Commenter 4. NTA. But I'm confused why your dad, the original AP in this story's family, wants you to reconnect with people who hated your dad as much as they hated you too. I mean, you didn't say specifically that the older siblings hated him, but I can only imagine, if they were spitting that much vitriol at small children, what they were saying to the two people who actually were at fault for cheating. So why would your family, who are no relation to those older siblings, push you to reconnect with them, especially knowing how horrible they have been to you? NT. Also, you fiance's family deserve to know the truth about your family. Reply. They have a big thing about blood ties, so the fact my older siblings are blood-related matters a lot to some of dad's side. Stories number 6. I am 23. Told my wife F29 that her childhood friend tried to have sex with me while she was drunk. I got kicked out and now her friend is asking me to go see her. Yes, I ended up telling my wife what happened and I listened to you guys and woke her up to tell her. I told her every single detail and she sort of doubted that nothing happened between us, so in her mind she thinks I fucked her friend, but I didn't. My wife has full access to my phone and my location 24/7 and we have the cloud family setup, so I have nothing to hide. Y'all were right. She said I should have told her when it happened and I reassured her a dozen times nothing happened, but she said she needed time on her own and she called up her friend and gave her hell too. She asked me to leave the house for a couple days and last night I slept in the car hoping she would tell me to come back. Nope. Her friend texted me and asked to talk, so she called me on the phone. I argued with her about why she would do something like that. She apologized and she told me she just kind of caught feelings for me because she saw how well I treat my wife and she wants what I have with my wife. She knows I got kicked out and she keeps calling me and telling me I could stay at her place while my wife cools down. I'm not so sure on her intentions though. What can I do moving forward now that I am sleeping in the CSR and my wife is doubting me? Comments. Commenter 1. Do not answer any more calls from her. Make her text or send voicemails so wife can see. Absolutely do not respond at all to her. She wants your marriage destroyed and is trying to destroy it. Commenter 2. Tell your wife her friend is blowing up your phone ASAP. Reply. I've tried texting and calling my wife, but she just ignores me. Commenter 3. So, after all this you're confused if staying the night at her best friend's house the person that caused this would be a bad idea? Or her intentions? Dude, she told you twice her intentions. You okay? Reply. I'm not okay, my life is falling apart and I didn't even do anything wrong. I don't get why I'm getting treated like a cheater when I have been faithful all this time. Stories number 7. Aita for cutting off my family over my brother refusing to do simple paperwork. I 26F honestly feel like I'm at my breaking point and need some outside perspective because I'm either going crazy or just finally waking up. Growing up, my brother 24M was always the golden child. He got to do everything I wasn't allowed to. He had freedom, friends, he could go out, date, live like a normal teenager. Meanwhile, I wasn't allowed any of that. If I even questioned it, I'd get the "he's a boy, it's different" response. That excuse was drilled into me for years, and I'm still resentful of how much I missed out on just because of that double standard. For context, we are Balkan Muslims and this is pretty common for us women to not get treated the same as our male relatives. Now I'm married with a child of my own. I live an hour away from my parents, and while I don't mind helping them here and there, I've got a household, a job, and a toddler to take care of. Lately, they've been needing more help with bills, paperwork, appointments, organizing their estate, and guess who's been handling all of that? Me. Not the son who lives with them rent-free with his GF and has all the free time in the world. It's become too much and I told my parents I can't keep doing everything, and they need to start asking their son to step up. They weren't happy, but for about a week, things were quiet. I wasn't getting flooded with texts and calls. I thought they were finally listening and my brother finally grew up. This past weekend I went to visit and immediately saw a giant pile of paperwork, unopened mail, and bills scattered on the table. I asked what was going on and why it was all untouched. They told me they'd asked my brother to take care of it and he kept saying he'd get to it. I asked where he was, and surprise. He was out with his friends. My parents asked me to do it and I said no and we were going to wait until he came home and he was going to do it. No more excuses. An hour later, he walks in, doesn't even greet me, just says, "Have you done mom and dad's paperwork yet?" I looked at him and said, "No, this is your job now. You live here, you handle it." He starts whining that I'm better at organizing, I know what gets paid when, I can translate things better, I know where everything goes. I told him I don't care. I have my own life and family to take care of, and it's not my responsibility to keep doing everything just because no one ever taught him how to be an adult. He got mad and things escalated. He started yelling, insulting me, and at one point picked up a binder full of documents and threw them at me and it hit my head. I just stared at him and waited for my parents to say something, to defend me, to check him for that behavior and for throwing a binder at me. Instead, they looked at me and said it's my fault and I started it and I should have just shut up and done the paperwork like always. I snapped. I started yelling at them all, saying everything I've bottled up for years. I told them that they raised a spoiled, lazy man-child who can't do a basic task and will throw them into a nursing home the first change he gets. I told them I was done being the one who carries all the weight while he gets to live carefree. I grabbed my things and told them I couldn't stand this family anymore and I hated them all. As I was walking out, they said if I left and refused to help, they would have nothing to do with me. I said fine. I left and haven't spoken to them since. Now they're blowing up my phone. First asking for help. My brother saying he doesn't know where the checkbooks are, how to write a check, who's my mom and dad's doctor, insurance, etc. When they saw I wasn't responding the text they got nasty. They began calling me selfish, heartless, and cruel. My dad left a voicemail wishing that I would get cancer in my stomach. He said this in our native language and this is the best way I could translate it to make it make sense. That broke my heart. They've said some horrible things to me but that was way too far. They even dragged my aunt into it, who's now telling me I should be ashamed of myself for how I spoke to my parents and for refusing to help them and that God will punish me. At this point I've gone completely no contact, but I can't lie I feel guilty even though I know I was pushed beyond my limit. Edit. Hi again. I wanted to clarify a few things that came up. Someone said I was the for not teaching my family how to do anything. That's just not true. I've spent hours trying to teach my parents how to access bills online, sign checks, etc. They always struggled to remember, which really just means they didn't care to learn. I even tried teaching my brother, but he always had plans or wasn't in the mood. I tried. Mother is 50 and father is 65. As for religion, please don't confuse culture with Islam. My parents picked and chose what Islamic values suited them, which is unfortunately very common especially in the Balkans. Islam actually holds women in a very high standards. It's culture that messed everything up. For example, I wasn't allowed to date or have fun because I'd shame the family, and I had to marry a Balkan Muslim. But my brother dated whoever he wanted, including non-Muslim women. My husband wasn't even allowed to sleep in the guest room at our house when we got engaged and slept in hotels until I finally snapped on my parents for that. Yet my brother's girlfriend basically moved in day one and no one blinked. I've been the translator and basically the family employee since I was 10. I've filled out every form, made every call, done everything for my parents, and it just never stopped. I blame myself for this as I should have put my foot down years ago. My husband doesn't like my family and hates my brother. That hatred really cemented when my water broke at 30 weeks and I was in the hospital crying and having a legit mental breakdown thinking I failed my baby. My lovely brother showed up and told me that I must have done something stupid and broke my water myself. My husband dragged him out, and my brother wasn't allowed back. Right now, my husband only knows there was a screaming match and I decided to cut everyone off. He doesn't know the full story because if he did, I know exactly what he'd do, and I'm not trying to go down that road. I know they'll probably show up at some point. I'm mentally preparing for it. Who knows what they'll do at that point? I've mentioned that I would like to move closer to my in-laws, and my husband is on board with that idea. He also talked to me about starting therapy. We were reading the messages and comments together and we both realized I was severely emotionally abused. Thank you all for your kind word and support. I truly appreciate you all. It's just sad that internet strangers have shown me more kindness and love than my own family has in years. I will update if anything happens. Much love to you all. Edit 2, I forgot to mention I told my husband what my brother did to me. As you can imagine he is furious and wanted to head over there tonight and but I won't let him stoop to his level. I am now worried about them showing up here and causing a commotion as that is the type of people they are. Relevant comments. How did OOP react to her parents' comments on their expectations on her and her brother when it comes to relationships? Reply, you should have seen my husband and I's faces when he first brought her home and said she was spending the night. We were actually happy for him that he got a GF, but appalled when he said she was sleeping over and my parents basically said yes perfect we love you too. While my husband had to sleep in hotels the first few months of our engagement. Commenter 1, what gets me is the fact they can't even open mail. Like can't even open an envelope and lock at the mail. If they had done that, and said, this one is concerning a doctor's appointment but I don't know which doctors were under etc. I'd be more forgiving. But if they are literally incapable of opening mail, then I'd go with, sorry parents, you obviously need 24-hour care, and that's not a level I can do, so you're going in a home, harsh. Yes. But realistically if they can't even open a letter, then that's a level of care that requires a care facility. Obviously they can do it, just won't. But I'd go that route. Reply, the mail thing is sort of my fault. When we first moved to America we had green cards so we were receiving mail from immigration. My parents not being able to read English and not knowing why people kept showing up and dropping envelopes off mailmen were throwing away all the mail they received every single day. I saw them throwing it away one day and stopped them. Thank God I caught on when I did or we would have missed important appointments that would do cost us our citizenship. I told them to not open any important mail and I will do it, but I didn't realize this would apply decades later after I got married and moved out lol. Commenter 2, they raised you to take care of them. They raised him to be taken care of. You were a convenient tool for them. Someone to take care of everything while they spoiled their son. Now they get to reap what they sowed. I am so sorry. It sucks. But I would mute their calls. No need to stress yourself out. And remember the peace you feel not serving them. And don't crawl back. They need to apologize and actually change before you have anything to do with them. Reply, as horrible as it is, I don't want anything to do with them anymore. My own brother assaulted me and they blamed me. I can never forgive them for that and I will not allow my daughter around that and believe that that is normal and what a loving family is. Commenter 3, you are being treated like a servant. Stay strong. Go and see if necessary. Explore other religions. Find one or none that treats women as equals. Raise your children to be different. You have nothing to gain emotionally to stay in that family. You have your own. Reply, the religion isn't a problem. It's the culture, unfortunately. OOP unfollowing the culture for her family. Reply, my husband and I are breaking the generational trauma/curse. Our daughter and future child will be treated equally and will be allowed to live their life the way they want. No matter what, their happiness is more important than anything else. OOP on her parents' paperwork, do the parents owe anything? Reply, both my mother and father's paperwork, retirement mail my mom and dad received from Europe when they worked there, retirement mail for my father from here, healthcare paperwork due to my father's health and keeping track of medical bills and fighting them because insurance hates helping people but love taking our money, auto insurance bills, home insurance bills, credit card bills. Thankfully they are not in debt and I've made sure of it. They buy things here and there but I used to track these as I did not trust my brother to not rack up debt, mortgage documents/bills, coupons made them coupon as we were dirt poor when we moved here and couponing stuck. Those are just a few things. They like keeping paper trails of everything. Now that I am reading this back, this is insane haha. Commenter 4, definitely not the AH. Reminds me of a friend who did everything for her mom, even cancer, caring for her final stage of life, paying bills etc. while having a family of her own. Guess who was the golden child, did nothing, lived rent-free in the house and got everything done for them, including all assets in the will. Yep, the brother. Let them FAFO. Reply, LOL. I went to my parents' estate plan consultations/appointments to help them and had so much fun listening to them tell me that almost everything including their home here and property back home goes to him. They told me I will get $5,000 and any traditional clothing they have. The funniest part was how uncomfortable the attorney was when I told them my parents wanted to give my brother basically everything. Update, AITA for cutting off my family over my brother refusing to do simple paperwork. A lot has happened since my last post that I don't even know where to start. After I went no contact, the calls didn't stop. My phone was blowing up constantly. Then my dad decided to try to call my husband directly. He acted like absolutely nothing happened, all cheerful and casual, as if my brother hadn't just thrown a binder at me over a week ago. I guess my dad thought my husband didn't know what happened. My husband cut him off and told him he knows exactly what happened, and that if my brother ever bothers me again or so much as steps foot on our property, it won't be pretty. Let's just say the conversation ended very quickly after that. A few days later, my uncle and aunt decided to randomly drop by our house unannounced to talk things out. My husband went outside before I even had a chance to react. He absolutely chewed them out, telling them that if helping my parents is so important to them, they should go do it themselves instead of harassing us. They left pretty fast after that. An hour after they left, my parents showed up. My husband did not allow them inside, but they stood at my door yelling at me, saying how disappointed they were in me and how I was disrespectful for talking about family issues with my husband. They called me horrible names that I can't even repeat here. I finally snapped and told them I want nothing to do with them anymore and this would be the last time we speak. They kept going, but I refused to participate in the conversation any longer, and they eventually left after my husband threatened to call the police. When they left I completely broke down. The things my parents said were vile and cruel. I don't know what I did to deserve this kind of treatment. I expect that kind of behavior from my in-laws, not my parents. Sad truth is, my MIL has been a better and more loving mother to me than my own mom ever has, and that hurts in a way I can't even explain. This happened a few days ago, and since then I've blocked my parents, brother, my uncle, and my aunt. A few other family members have tried reaching out but the moment I see they're defending my parents, I block them too. I just can't deal with it anymore and I have my own family to worry about. We've decided we'll be moving closer to my in-laws this winter, and no one will know except close friends and family we can trust not to run back to my parents. My first therapy session is scheduled for next week as well. When I opened up fully to my husband and our close friends about my childhood, the look on their faces made me sick. They explained to me that what I went through was not normal and that no parent should ever treat their child the way mine treated me. Emotional abuse wasn't the only kind of abuse I experienced. I won't outright say it, but let's just say that when I was in trouble as a kid, my parents would make me go outside, pick a branch from a tree, cut it, and bring it to them. You can probably guess the rest. This was constant and not the only thing. My childhood was deeply messed up, and I'm only truly realizing the extent of it now. I'm not doing well at the moment, but I'm thankful I have my husband and friends to support me. I really hope therapy will help me heal, but I know it will take a long time. Right now, it feels like I'm just floating in darkness. I can't comprehend why my parents hate me so much. I did everything they ever wanted, even if it compromised my own happiness. It still wasn't enough for them. To everyone who's commented or messaged me, thank you. You've shown me more kindness and compassion than my own family ever has. I wish every single one of you nothing but love and happiness. I hope this is the first and last time I have to update on this situation. Much love to you all. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, going completely no contact with your family is the first step towards achieving personal peace. You got a terrible start in life with the family you were born into, but the universe is providing a correction by your chosen family. Your husband is an absolute star. Good luck. Reply, thank you. I'm very thankful for my husband. I'm debating on whether to tell my MIL and FIL what happened as they still do not know what recently happened. Commenter 2, you're doing well. It gets better. Don't let them back in, they'll try emotional blackmail but family, but your best bet is to ignore them. Reply, I've blocked them all and I will be moving. I have processed them like a death and they will never hear or see me again. OOP on her husband and his relationship with her family. Reply, you are right and I should have added a bit more context on my husband's relationship with my family. Basically he realized from the beginning that my family treated me terrible and in his defense he has sat me down and talked to me about it multiple times and said that this isn't right nor normal. I would brush it off and say they didn't mean it or they're my parents, I don't tell you what to do with yours. That still didn't stop him from trying to get through to me and stick up for me. Over the years he began to hate them more and more. I can't say too much in fear of someone from my family being on here and finding out this is me. What really set him off was after my water broke and my brother treated me the way that he did in the hospital and he became more vocal about me needing to take care of myself and have my brother handle my parents. He was already sticking up for me multiple times, but it got to a point that as soon as a comment was made towards me my husband took us home immediately. The more I talk about it the more I realize how stupid I was and I should have listened to my husband more as I put him through all this BS as well. Stories number 8. ATIA for choosing my mom over my fiance. Hey Reddit, yesterday my friend sent me a post on this subreddit that was made by my fiance. She totally makes me look like a villain so I just have to say my side. We've been dating for a while now and it's been great aside from the past few days. My mother 63F is a single mother that raised me and my sister alone. She has always been the most supportive mother ever and I love her to the end of the world. She is getting on in her years now, and is not the same person she was. She has always been a little overprotective of me, and so she has never fully accepted my fiancé. I didn't think it was that big of a deal since she doesn't say anything directly to my fiancé. Then last weekend when we were announcing our engagement at her house, my mom wasn't too thrilled and I admit made a rude remark regarding my fiancé's autism. We left quickly after and I comforted my fiancé for over an hour. I ordered her takeout, made a bath for her and put on a movie. I explained to her that my mom is getting older and doesn't have full control of what she says. My fiancé kept pushing and I eventually snapped and told her I can't do anything about it. I'm not sure my fiancé understands because she doesn't have a close bond with her mom. I stayed at my mom's house, went back in the morning. Long argument short, my fiancé started blowing the comments my mother made way out of proportion, not even bothering to mention her age. Like I said, my mom is old now, she doesn't understand this fully. She left and I haven't seen her since. Her friend contacted me and said I'm the AH for choosing my mom over her. I'm not choosing my mom over her though, and we are still getting married, so ATA. Comments. Commenter 1. Age is not an excuse to be a shitty person. After 63 years, your mother doesn't have the self-control to keep rude comments to herself. You absolutely could have done something. You chose to not defend your fiancé because you're too busy hanging on mom's teat. YTA and your fiancé dodged a fucking nuke. Commenter 2. My husband is going to be 62 in July. I didn't realize he is old and should no longer be accountable for what he says. Commenter 3. YT fucking A. Your mom called your autistic fiancé a retarded gold digger. How is that not a big deal? There is no good fucking excuse for your mom to call her that, and I'm not buying the whole age excuse because my mom is 5 years younger than yours and she's very much alert and aware of what is and isn't okay to say to other people. Unless your mom has early onset dementia, she knows exactly what the fuck she's doing. You're a fucking mommy's boy who can't stand up for your fiancé's dignity. That's fucking pathetic. Shame on you. Update. After we broke up and my ex found out I was dating again, he sent tons of passive-aggressive gifts to me. He posted about one here, saying it was my favorite book. No. Loving your spouse when you feel like walking away was not on my to-read list, actually. Anyways, here's what happened. About a month ago, I found out my ex has a new girlfriend. I was honestly relieved. I kinda thought maybe he'd finally leave me alone. Yeah, no. About a month ago, I started getting DMs from this one girl. Stuff like, "You're pathetic, no wonder he's happier now and he told me what you did to him." Obviously, I blocked her, but for every account I blocked there were 2 more ready to come at me. I eventually had to make my social media private. About 2 weeks later, I was out on a date when my ex and this new girlfriend just so happened to show up at the same place. He made a scene, loudly accusing me of stalking him. I was literally eating dinner in a public restaurant. His girlfriend filmed it and posted it on TikTok with some caption about that crazy ex me. Yes, me. I'm the crazy ex, guys. It blew up more than I ever expected. Not like millions of views, but enough that people I knew started sending me the video asking if it was me. Random strangers commented about how I'm a homewrecker, without even knowing the situation. I'm just so exhausted of everything. I want to move far away, and get out, but my job just doesn't allow for that. I'm really just so done with him. I'm in the process of getting a restraining order now. I know this isn't the update y'all probably wanted, sorry. So anyways, after he posts this he calls me and like an idiot I pick up. And let me tell you, this man did not sound stable. First he was crying begging for me back and then he was screaming at me to, "Get the F back here." It was heartbreaking to hear the man I thought I was going to marry sound so pisco. I recorded the call just in case I needed evidence and then I hung up and blocked him everywhere. About an hour later he shows up to my friend's house acting crazy and saying some things I can't repeat here. I called the police and after they took him away, I left to stay at a hotel. My friend has been really supportive but I can't put her in danger. I hope this is the final update, but if anything else happens, is there a different sub I can post in? I feel like I'm deviating from Aita. Sorry if this isn't edited properly, I just can't with life today. Again, thanks for all the support. It truly means more to me than I can ever say. Stories number 9. Aita for not changing my daughter's wedding venue even though my sister's husband proposed to his 22-year-old mistress there last month. I 51F put down a $20,000 non-refundable deposit on this gorgeous beachfront estate for my daughter, let's call her Amy's 26F, wedding next September. We booked it 18 months out. For context, and without revealing too much, it's the venue in our area, and it has been Amy's dream wedding spot in all of her Pinterest boards. Last month, my sister, let's call her Carol 53F, found out her cheating ex-husband, let's call him Mark 55, and proposed to his co-worker 28F. She was 22 when they started having an affair, who he had been having an affair with. The woman posted engagement photos from the same venue. Specifically the beautiful beach area where Amy plans to have her ceremony. Carol is obviously destroyed. She called me sobbing, begging me to change venues. Says she can't watch Amy get married where Mark proposed to a girl younger than his own daughter. Can't smile for photos on that beach. I feel sick for her. I do. But, $20,000 non-refundable deposit. Save the dates already sent. Amy's dreamed of this venue since high school. Everything else is booked or 3x the price. I told Carol I can't lose $20,000 and crush Amy's dreams because Mark is trash. Carol says I'm choosing money over her mental health. That I'm forcing her to relive the worst betrayal of her life for pretty pictures. I also talked to Amy about it and she does not want a venue change. That it's not her fault. Mark, who has been out of all out lives for the last 5 years, ruined that place for Carol. Carol called Amy a spoiled brat who wouldn't understand real pain. Now Carol's skipping Thanksgiving. My and Carol's side of the family, her daughters and to some extent, my parents, says I'm heartless. The place is cursed anyway, why should we host Amy's big day there? My husband's side of the family says Carol doesn't get to hijack Amy's wedding because her husband's a cheater. Aita for not switching venues. Comments. Commenter 1. Who has been out of all out lives for the last 5 years. Carol has had 5 years, it is sad that the wounds are fresh and deep, but it isn't your daughter's issue to repair. NTA. Commenter 2. Tell her you'd rather pay for some therapy for her than lose the $20,000. She needs it. 5 years. Let's move on. Commenter 3. Info, just to be clear on the timeline here. You say Mark is the ex-husband, and he has been out of all our lives for the last 5 years, so they divorced 5 years ago. Mark proposed just last month. Sorry Carol, but if you've been divorced for 5 years, you need to not gaf what he's doing now. Why was Carol even checking the mistress's posts? Commenter 4, NTA. If Carol can't bring herself to go to that spot, that's sad. But that's all it is. There's no need for you to lose your money, or for your daughter to lose the venue she wants. Reply, thank you for the thought. I really feel for Carol. I really do. And it's so hard to not have my sister support her niece's best day. Stories number 10. I, 30M, am in a relationship with a single mom, 27F, and I regret it. I started this relationship 2 years ago when I was 28. Due to the 1-hour drive we only see each other on the weekends. She has her son Monday to Friday and the weekends Dad gets her son 7 years old. I really only see him on Sunday nights when he gets dropped. I was always nice to her son. I would play Minecraft and take him out, even went on vacation with her and him a couple of times. But I'm not going to lie, I never loved the idea of dealing with him. Despite my attempts at treating him like my own, he has proven time and time again that he's just a difficult kid to deal with. I want to keep this post short, so I'll spare the details. But the problem is that recently he's been with us every weekend and I'm starting to get a clearer view into my future with her and her son. I have zero time to myself, there's no sex, haven't had it in over a month, and I find myself hiding in the bathroom just to get a moment's peace. I no longer look forward to my weekends, I actually look forward to Monday because at least after work I have a few hours to myself for some peace. I'm starting to realize what my future is looking like and it horrifies me. I tried having a conversation with my girl about it a few times, but it always seems to lead to an argument. It's like I have all the responsibilities of a parent, but none of the authority. I really love my girlfriend and we have such a good relationship outside of her son, but now I think it's time for me to end it. I just feel completely awful about the whole thing because I knew she was a single mother before I got into this relationship, but I kept ignoring red flags and kept telling myself it would get better, but it hasn't, it just kept getting worse. I feel like I wasted both of our time, but I'm just having trouble letting go. Every time I think about ending it I get scared that I'll miss her too much. But deep down I know that I have to. Any advice or anyone else go through this before? Edit, thanks everyone, I appreciate all the comments. I just wanted to clarify that the red flags were not her being a mother. Although her parenting style isn't one I endorse completely, so I guess that could be a red flag. But I'm just saying I ignored the red flags that involved other aspects of single motherhood that are not exactly her fault. For example, her son's father is a deadbeat and doesn't support their son financially at all, so I know that burden would fall on my shoulders completely if we were to stay together. Something I really didn't consider going into it. Should have been obvious, I know, but we all make mistakes. I have nothing but love for her and will make an update post once I have the conversation with her. Very soon. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Listen, if you feel like that, get out. Save yourself. Move on. It will sting, but ultimately you will be happier. As a step-parent myself to a very difficult child, it never gets easier. There is literally no happiness in our home anymore, and I have 3 of my own kids who are miserable as well. I wish I had not ignored some red flags. You cannot love someone through these kinds of situations. Reply. Thanks, I've already started speaking to a therapist and am working on getting out for good real soon. Her and I actually just started a break because of all the stress I've been feeling from the relationship. I don't see much value in a sexless relationship with a mom that I have to help raise her kid who I have to lose all my free time to. I just hate feeling like the bad guy, but I guess I just have to accept that and move on. Commenter 2. I'm writing this as a single parent. You aren't doing anything wrong by leaving the relationship. Here's the thing. My child always comes first. That's my job as a parent. If the person I was dating felt the way you do, which are valid feelings, it may sting when they ended things, but I would respect it because I want my child to see a healthy relationship. I would never expect a step-parent to 100% treat my child as their own, although that would be amazing. You're right, it's hard and it doesn't tend to get easier, it just changes. I also resort myself to another room from time to time just to get a few minutes of silence, it's normal. All 3 of you deserve a functioning relationship without resentments. If this relationship isn't working for you, you're all better off without it. Dating a single parent can be very tough. Update. I told her I was unhappy, I asked if I could have some time to myself, maybe 1 weekend a month I can stay home, she said no. It's all or nothing with us. I offered her couples therapy and even told her I'd pay for the entire thing. She refused, said she already has enough therapy. I told her then we need to end it. It was an awful conversation and there was tons of crying until she just hung up on me. A little backstory, she's been through terrible trauma in her life and I was worried she might not be okay because she's still dealing with some of it. Anyway, I was worried about her but she refused to talk to me. Wouldn't answer calls or texts. I figured it was just over now and I need to leave her alone. The next morning I get a text from her asking me to come get my stuff I had left there. I told her just throw it all out. The stuff wasn't worth me going over there because it would be too hard to see her now. She basically said please just come get your stuff, I don't want to look at it anymore either. And she said this will be the last time we will see each other so let's say goodbye. I agreed and drove over there. When I got there I was met with a pile of my stuff. I started taking trips bringing it down to my car. When I went to get the last of my stuff I saw her sitting on the kitchen floor just crying. I sat next to her for a while not saying anything. She kinda made a move where she moved away from me a few inches. I looked at her and said I should probably go, huh? She nodded her head. I got up and as I was leaving I just said to her I just wished you didn't think I was a horrible person. She started yelling from the floor about how she did nothing wrong and whatnot. I couldn't take the yelling, I said goodbye and left. As I was walking down the hallway I was haunted by the sounds of her crying so loud I could hear it very clear. As I left her building and got into my car she called me. She was upset that I didn't want to talk, but I explained to her there wasn't anything left to talk about. She kept going on and on about how awful I was and not doing the right thing, etc., and she refused to take any blame. At this point I'm already on the highway about 15 minutes away from her apartment when she asks me to come back inside to talk. I told her no, I am already leaving. She started crying and begging me to turn around and talk. I said I am sorry, I am so sorry and I hung up the phone. First time I've ever done that to her, but she's hung up on me over a dozen times. She started immediately blowing up my phone. I couldn't deal with it, I was losing my mind, so I just turned the phone off. I left it off for a day and when I turned it on I saw a few short texts and missed calls. I immediately just went ahead and blocked her. I don't know if I did the right thing, I feel so damn terrible about this whole thing. I want to be there for her, hearing her cry killed me inside. But I know me being there for her will just rope me back into the relationship that I was no longer wanting to be in. Even though I still love her, and in fact I am still in love with her. But it's too much, I know I won't be happy. She wrote me 2 emails since she figured out she was blocked. I haven't read them yet. I can see they addressed in letter format but I don't have the strength to read them at this time. This whole thing sucks. Hopefully this doesn't get automatically taken down. Anyway, thanks everyone, and if you have advice on how to get through this that would be very helpful. Thanks. Edit. I never thought this would get so much attention. This has been the most difficult thing I've dealt with in my life, so thank you all so much for the kind words, it has all helped out tremendously. Last night I ended up reading the letters she sent me before I looked at this post again, and the first letter was super apologetic, actually made me tear up. It was very sweet and it made things really difficult. Then I read the second letter which was sent 12 hours after the first one and it was more blame. She was venting about all the things I did wrong, etc. In retrospect I should not have read either of the letters, but the first letter reminded me of the good times, and then the second one reminded me why I broke up with her in the first place. So I am glad she wrote the second one, because if it was just the first one then who knows what I'd be feeling right now. Anyway, I am going to continue to be strong and block her on any other method she tries contacting me with. She even started calling me from her work phone number. I didn't answer but I googled it and confirmed that had to be her. I blocked that number as well. Top comment. Commenter 1. So she didn't want to give you a weekend off and instead she gave you a lifetime off. Honestly, I could see why she would feel like she wants all or nothing from you. But she has a child that isn't yours. She should have the skills to rationalize why you would want a weekend off sometimes. I've never dated a girl with a kid so I can't relate too heavily, but it seems just from this here that you are empathetic and rational, and you gave her every chance to have a real conversation and she was just emotionally distraught the entire time. I think after all of that, blocking and moving on completely is probably a decent choice. Leaving wiggle room for conversation won't be healthy for either of you. New updates. I was the dumper, and I've been having a really tough time. Way back machine March 13, 2023, 4 days after Prev post. Just got out of a 2.5-year relationship, my ex a 27F and I'm a 30M. I broke up with her because I wanted some more time to myself, because I felt the dynamic between her and my life was not very fulfilling for myself, spending all my time with her doing what she wants, etc. Plus the lack of sex, we were only having sex maybe one time a week at most, but the last 3 to 4 months we were together that dropped to once every other week and then eventually once a month. She's a single mother, so trying to become a step-parent has been very difficult and was the leading factor in our breakup. Anyway, we had a tough breakup, and immediately after I felt great, I was finally free. But now that it has been a week, I'm struggling a lot. I've been crying every single day, including having a complete breakdown last night. I feel so much regret about my decision, I miss her so damn much. I've talked to my therapist, I've talked to my family, I've talked to my friends. None of that has been really helping. I miss talking with her on the phone, or seeing her smile. During the breakup I was so focused on all the bad that I forgot about the good we had. Now that she's gone, it's reversed. I've tried thinking about the bad, and I understand we cannot be together again, but I am fighting the urge every minute to not pick up my phone and call her, or text her, or just drive over there and beg for forgiveness. I feel like I'm at completely rock bottom here. I think about dating again in the future, not now, and I just don't find any interest in any other person. It just makes me miss her even more thinking about being with someone else. Because what if they don't do what she does? What if they don't have such a sweet laugh or is as fun to be around? So much confusion in my brain. I'll remain strong and not contact her, but I'm here to admit it is absolutely tearing me up inside. Thanks for reading about my troubles. My ex reached out, and this helped me get over her. I wanted to make a post in hopes that it will help more people. You can check out my post history and see my problems with my ex, and eventually break up, and even after me feeling like I wanted her back. She was a single mom, and it was really difficult to get over her in more ways that I wasn't prepared for. So I wanted to use this as a little bit of an update on how I got over her, and what exactly happened post-breakup. She reached out. If you want backstory, read my post history. If not, long story short, I'm 30M and dated a 27F single mother to a 7-year-old boy for 2.5 years. We were sorta long distance hour drive and saw each other on the weekends for the most part. After the breakup I had felt free of all the nonsense associated with her. I finally had my own free time to myself. However, shortly after, maybe 1 week, I started to miss her. A lot. I thought about her all the time. Last time I saw her she was sitting on her kitchen floor bawling her eyes out. Every time I closed my eyes I saw that image, I heard her screams and cries, it broke me. I wanted to reach out to her so bad. Eventually I did message her and ask if I could write her son a goodbye letter because I never had the chance to say goodbye to him. I actually was surprised how much I missed him. He and I had our issues, but I did have a connection with him, and it was sad to think I'll never see how he grew up. Anyway, letter sent, she received and thanked me for that. Everything was pretty cordial. No contact continued. About 6 weeks later, I am still missing her. Still have moments where I break down in tears by myself. I remember going down into my home workout room and just started doing deadlifts until I couldn't physically pick up the bar anymore and I just collapsed to my knees crying hysterically. This was at 1 a.m. on a work night. I was a mess. I wrote her a letter after, basically saying everything I wanted to say. I wanted her back, I was going to fix everything, etc. etc. I never sent the letter. I was serious about the no contact, I was going to be strong, I was never going to break it. Writing the letters then deleting them was just therapy for me in a way. After I wrote that letter, about 3 days later, guess what? She fucking called me. I didn't notice it was her at first because I deleted and blocked her number. If her number didn't get blocked correctly or if it was a different number I never asked. But I answered and it was her. She started on about how OHUI. How are you? I know we haven't talked in a while, but I just left the Toyota dealer and they failed my car because of the tint you had put on it. Can I borrow you for a moment and you can help me out? My heart started racing. I wanted to see her. So badly. I wanted nothing more than to be with her again. But I knew I had to talk first. I told her I would help her, but I wanted to talk first. So we talked. So many things I wanted to say to her I began to say. I told her how I was struggling, I told her how I missed her, and I was just completely honest about everything that was going on in my mind. I told her about therapy, I told her about the journaling. But when I asked her how she was doing, that's when the truth began to pour out. She told me she was doing well. She told me she was regressing her words. Said she was going out, partying, drinking, hanging with friends. Even made it a point to let me know that the next night she was going out with friends in the city and that she was going to pick up a new dress for it. She sounded like a bimbo on the phone. Calling me names like love and sweetie, just cringe level shit. I asked her if she missed me, she said she did but she was doing well. Told me therapy has been focusing on her own trauma and she doesn't really think about me, or dream about me, or I guess really care about me at all. I asked about her son because at this point I was more interested with him. She told me he saved the letter and still asks about me, she said he misses me a lot. I can tell he missed me more than she did. I ended the call with I would love to help you but I can't, here's directions to a shop I know that will pass your car with the tint, tell them you know me and they'll take care of you. And she thanked me and we hung up the phone. Once we hung up I just stared at my wall for a good 5 minutes. My mind totally fucked up at what just happened. I was so sad at first, and angry. How could she move on so easily? How could she not be in any pain? While I am sitting here totally devastated at the breakup, she is doing well. My anger and sadness soon turned into appreciation and relief. Oh my God, she's not my problem anymore. She is doing these things that would haunt me at night, but she's not my woman anymore. The girl I was in love with, the girl who every time I closed my eyes to think about. She does not exist. I know that sounds crazy, but she does not exist. The girl I keep thinking about, is no longer around. She has been replaced with this other person who looks like her, and sounds like her, but she isn't her. That helped me out tremendously. Suddenly I realized that I had been trapped in a mental prison. This whole time I thought she put me there, but she didn't. I did. I put myself there. I know this is a bit off topic but I watched The Matrix original for the first time in my life I know and I started to see similarities to how what we think our realities are. I know this is a bit of a tangent, but it helped me to believe that I needed to see the truth is there is no girl there is no spoon. I know that last bit is a little weird, but it helped me okay lol. Point is, she isn't the person I built in my head. Just like Jocko said in his breakup video, you build this person up who doesn't even exist. I also listened to Bill Burr and he has a podcast where he talked about how breakups were and he actually said that around the 6-week mark they always reach out. He was right. Anyway, one final update. This all happened about 3 weeks ago and I have never felt better since. I am so at peace with everything. Sure, I do still miss her from time to time. I definitely miss her son too. But I am happy again, finally. I freed myself from the prison that I was in. I always was hoping she could free me, but she couldn't. I had to free myself. 2 nights ago I got a random text from her cousin 21F. She told me she heard about the breakup and she wasn't sure if she should say anything but she said her and I had a good relationship. The cousin and I, we used to always joke around with each other when she visited. She told me she will really miss me and she even said that she doesn't believe my ex will ever replace me. Her whole family loved me and it shows. Anyway, I know this post is long but I am doing great right now. I am actually going to start dating again soon and have been doing so well. Here's some things that have really helped me get over her besides the obvious phone call. Journaling, write all feelings down. Every time you want to reach out to your ex, write it down and wait a day. You must wait 24 hours. You'll feel different, I promise, and you won't send that letter. Exercise, I worked out every single day. I always worked out though even during the relationship, so this helped but wasn't enough on its own. Could be different if I just started though. Projects, goals, I have this car I have been fixing up. It helped me a lot working on the car because I would listen to podcasts/music while turning wrenches. It helped me a lot. Pretend you're better. Just like how faking confidence can lead to real confidence, faking being better after a breakup can lead to feeling better after a breakup. This was helpful in the later stages when I was still holding on a little bit. In the beginning I recommend being honest with yourself. It's okay to miss them. Cry it out. Thanks Bill Burr. Seriously, have yourself a good cry everything out, you'll feel better. It's okay, do this in private. No one can judge you. It's better for your health. And that's pretty much it. I hope this helps some of you. I do still miss my ex from time to time. But overall I am in a very good place. I know what it's like to be in the dark, to feel hopeless. I've been there before. It will get better, but you have to put the work into it. Good luck everyone. I wanted to reach out for Mother's Day, but I maintained the NC. May 15, 2023, 3 days after Prev post. My ex is a single mother. I was very close with her and her son. I'm 30M, she's 27F. This is our first Mother's Day apart after the breakup about 2 months ago. I wanted to write her an email wishing her a happy Mother's Day. I was just going to say hey, I wasn't sure if I should reach out, but I just wanted to wish you happy Mother's Day. I hope X is doing well, I miss him. I wanted to write it so bad. I wrote the email in my head about 10 times. But I never wrote it. I told myself I would not do it and I contained myself. It was hard fighting the urge, but now it's the next day and I am so happy I contained myself. Do not break NC for any reason. If you have the urge to do so, write the email but don't hit send. Wait 3 days and see how you feel. I bet you'll delete that email and be thankful you did. I am for the most part over my ex, but seeing the reminder of Mother's Day just brought back so many memories. Luckily your feelings are temporary. Stay strong everyone. Stories number 11. Aita for telling my mom it's not my fault my sister lost custody of her kids. So my sister and I don't speak, I don't see or talk to her kids. I'll give a backstory so you can know the reason. So last year I had to take my older daughter to the hospital to get her hip surgery. I asked my sister to watch my youngest daughter for some hours, I even paid her. I'm thinking I left her in good hands, because I've babysat her kids before. I didn't know a mother would have to come home to hear what was going on with her child, it makes me sick till this day. My sister has an older daughter 16, she smokes, does whatever she wants because my sister doesn't discipline her kids. Why did I have to get a video sent to me of my niece, and her friends smoking, plus alcohol drinks? But with my daughter, they were giving her a vape to smoke but giving her sips of the drink. And y'all my stomach was hurting from watching the video because you can't trust your own family. Mind you in the video my daughter was coughing, they were laughing like it was funny. Seriously put my child in danger. On top of that when I went off my sister defended her daughter so that right there told me that I didn't want a relationship with her anymore. Anyways, my daughter now deals with breathing problems so yeah. During that time I did call CPS, and the police immediately. The fact is that my sister wasn't home at the time but she never made me aware of that. Since she was the adult, she was charged. Her daughter and her friend had to go to juvenile facilities. When CPS got involved they found other things my sister had in her house so she made it way worse. So my sister has been going through it, I only know this because my mom has been telling me. She wants me to say something about my sister but I have nothing to say to her. I didn't realize that my mom wasn't even on my side because she defended my sister, like it's ridiculous. Half the family doesn't mess with me but it's cool, I'll always remember that. So my mother called because she had something to get off her chest, she was telling me that my sister is really going through it, and how it's my fault she lost the kids. My mom didn't want me to put charges on my sister, she doesn't believe that people should go to jail for something so little. I was tired of my mother just being okay with it, I told her it wasn't my fault but hers. Comments. Commenter 1. I see so it's okay when your sister and her kid abuses your child and causes health problems but soon as you call CPS you're the bad guy. Yeah the math ain't matting mom make it make sense. You're just mad that your golden child is in jail for what she did and you don't want to admit that OP did the right thing. Reply, you clocked it. Don't worry my mom is officially cut off, my mom cares more about the family image than anything. But she won't be seeing my kids ever again. Commenter 2, NTA. Something so little. Your sister who you entrusted with your 4-year-old daughter left her with her 16-year-old daughter and her friends, who were smoking and drinking and forcing your daughter to participate. A 4-year-old child. She deserves to have her daughter taken away from her and your mom needs a reality check. Your daughter now is suffering breathing problems and will probably have issues with that for life, and your mom thinks what your niece did was minor. Really? Time to go NC with mom too, until she realizes what kind of danger your daughter was in due to your sister's negligence. Commenter 3, NTA, your mom is trying to victim blame. Your kid was abused by her older cousins. Stories number 12, I have been hooking up with my best friend's grandmother, I'm going to keep this vague and brief for anonymity. 2. I've been friends with this guy for a while. He moved away and asked that I spend time with his grandmother so she doesn't get lonely. He's like a brother to me so I agree. She recognized me from some events that he had in his life that I was a part of so we already had a rapport. For reference she is in her 60s and I'm in my 20s/30s. I sat with her and did some crafts together. Like normal shit you would do with your grandmother. She asked that I make her a drink and when I brought it back she told me that she didn't enjoy drinking alone. I took the hint and made myself a drink. Fast forward 2 hours and between the two of us we probably knocked back around 6 mint juleps, so I'm pretty tipsy. Eventually the topic got onto my dating endeavors. She told me that I needed to find a girlfriend before I end up like her, old and alone. I reassured her that she was pretty and didn't look a day over 40, again, shit that you would say to an older lady. She asked if I could believe that she hadn't gotten off since her late husband passed. To be honest, that caught me off guard. Both from how sexual the conversation had gotten and from the idea that someone can go over a decade with finishing. She asked if it would help her out. I won't lie, she's a beautiful woman and the booze broke down my inhibition. I said screw it and said yes, and we hooked up. Since then we have been hooking up semi-regularly. Of course I feel guilty as hell due to her being my friend's grandmother. On the other hand, we both are single and adults. I needed to get this off of my chest, because it's been eating me up inside. Comments. Commenter 1. You can do something incredibly funny by becoming your friend's new grandfather. Reply. I know people use the word literally a lot, but I think he would literally kill me. Commenter 2. Meanwhile the grandma is pounding every dude she meets using the same sob story. Reply. That would be the funniest outcome. Commenter 3. You're gonna have to explain why you are at the will reading and made out better than most family. Reply. Yeah, that would be uncomfortable. Stories number 13. Aita for not removing multiple scary posters from my room that my nephew is sleeping in. Okay, so I am 16, got told today that my brother M29 would be staying in my room overnight tomorrow with my nephew M6. I'm already pissed at this because well it's my fucking room, my mum is part of the older generation so according to her it's perfectly normal to give up your bed for a guest. One thing about my room is that the walls are smothered in posters, like no gaps between Jenga of different posters, banners, and postcards. I have a wall of 2000 postcard of Studio Ghibli, 7 full-size posters, 5 half-size, 48 pictures of Hozier, and lots more general memorabilia from bands and shows. I have 3 posters stapled to my ceiling, one of which is Ryuk from Death Note. Look him up, he's creepy as he is a demon, I will admit. And my brother asked, oh can you just take it down for the night? I say no sorry, it's stapled and I don't want to damage it, and put it back up, and he is not pleased, having a go at me and saying you would have been scared at his age too. I don't see how that's my problem. I don't want them in my room at all. I'm not ripping down a permanent poster for people I don't want in my room. But it gets worse. I mentioned the 48 pictures of Hozier before. He wanted me to take them down. He said it looks like a shrine. Cult-like. It's gonna scare him, take it down. ATP, I'm not listening to a word he says. But like, am I in the wrong for this? I don't feel like I am, but my mom is calling me unreasonable. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. But, maybe a simple roll of brown package paper pinned over them would ensure he doesn't damage them and that they don't get taken down. Or you could use wrapping paper. Not ideal but would be kind. Commenter 2. This is the best suggestion of compromise I've seen. This is sensible and should make everyone happy. Commenter 3. I don't blame OP for not being happy that he is being kicked out of his bedroom, but since he likely is powerless to stop it, I agree this is the best compromise. Commenter 4. NTA. But I'd be worried about your brother ripping them down himself. Maybe get a couple of pads of post-its and go nuts, temporarily cover up whatever he finds so offensive, just to keep him from damaging your stuff. Reply. Honestly, the best advice I've got from a few people, probably gonna do this. Update, my nephew saw the poster and didn't give a fuck. We picked him and my brother up, came back to my house, well my mum's house, as many of you seem to care so much about property ownership, and I was given the job of babysitting, entertaining him for the rest of the day. Eventually the park gets boring, toys get boring, games get boring, so he asks to watch YouTube in my room. My brother instantly goes, no, there are scary pictures you won't like. This immediately piqued his interest and went straight to my room, staring straight at the ceiling. He's just like, oh that's cool. Turns out he literally plays COD Zombies all day and has unlimited internet access at 6. My brother was literally just trying to get under my skin and irritate me. Thanks to everyone for all the advice though. But I do think some people either disregarded it, just didn't care that the poster is on my ceiling. I'm 5 feet 2 inches, so it took me an hour, a pile of cushions, and a lot of rage quitting to put them up in the first place. But none of that matters anymore. Comments. Commenter 1. He's lucky those posters aren't semi or completely naked people. I know what teen boys are like. My sister once found her 16-year-old son's walls filled with these kinds of posters and spent a few hours making and gluing bikinis on them all. LOL. Commenter 2. Turns out he literally plays COD Zombies all day and has unlimited internet access at 6. My teacher brain is crying a bit about this. He will get a good bit of brain damage from that. Nice parenting by your brother. Stories number 14. My mother has waited my whole life for the vengeance, only to be frustratingly disappointed. TLDR, my mother hates that my baby sleeps as she was counting on me having to go through what she did to get vengeance for my low sleep needs during childhood. For as long as I can remember, my mother has told stories to everyone who'll listen, about what a terrible sleeper I was as a baby. Admittedly, I seem to take after my paternal grandfather and absent father, and have relatively short natural sleep cycles and sleep requirements. I function best on 4 hours overnight and a 1 to 2 hour nap in the afternoon. I can go without the nap, it's not a requirement, but if I sleep more than 6 hours overnight I'm like a zombie all day. People comment about it at work not infrequently. I'll have 3 hours sleep and smash out half a dozen high-quality briefs in the space of a morning, but if I have 8 hours I'm lucky if I can function enough to understand what I'm supposed to be writing about. Even more confusingly, I don't drink caffeine, it gives me heart palpitations. Moving on and back to mother, my whole life this has come up in any meaningful conversation. How I put her through hell until I could read and keep myself occupied. When I got pregnant, these stories ramped up. Boo, she couldn't wait for me to experience the sleep deprivation she went through, etc., etc. It doesn't seem to have occurred to her that it probably wouldn't be as much of an issue for me, since I naturally sleep less, but shrugs. Perhaps not unexpectedly, pregnancy and so far early parenthood has finally made me sleep more, which is nice. Anyway, my son is 3.5 months old, and since week 5 he has slept 12 hours straight through almost every night. Like clockwork he'll go down at 6 p.m. and not wake up until 6 a.m. At first I was concerned, but our GP and child health nurse all said he's fine, he eats what he's supposed to in 24 hours during his awake hours and is growing exactly on his curve. He doesn't really sleep much during the day, we might get 3 to 4 20 to 30 minute naps out of him. Some days he barely naps at all, despite us providing all the appropriate conditions for one and doing our best to put him down when he has sleepy cues etc. Anyway, this is driving my mother a little batty. I've never seen her so frustrated and it's both sad and a little hilarious. It's also annoying. She called the other day and he was contact napping, so I messaged to say he'd barely slept that day. Not uncommon for me to message her that when she tries to call and I'd call her later. Q, you never slept either blah blah and you were fine to be woken. Yeah, but now mum, for one thing, now I'm a parent I realize my early sleeping habits weren't actually totally abnormal. Her main complaint is I never slept more than 4 hours at a time, but from what I read on parenting forums, that's not totally unusual. But also, I'm not waking my 3-month-old from a much-needed nap just because you want to talk. Anyway, my poor mother. So hard done by. Isn't getting the vengeance she deserves. In any case, who knows, his sleep habits could very well change. Sleep regression is right around the corner and then perhaps I'll be eating my words. Comments. Commenter 1. I say enjoy the hilarity of her frustration while you can, because she really should have let this go ages ago. Commenter 2. She's being aggrieved and dramatic about you having been a normal baby. Please promise me that when he starts teething and doesn't sleep all night that you won't tell her lol. Reply. Haha, I probably won't. And aggrieved and dramatic is her entire personality NGL. Commenter 3. I'm guessing that part of this long-lived resentment is related to the fact it's a trait of the absent father. Mom probably would have let it go long ago if not for that. Just a guess, though. Reply. Potentially. She's never really held animosity for my father though, as his absence was her choice. Stories number 15. Wibta, if I told my ex that his new GF told me to back TF off already. Hiya there, I'm in a bit of a pickle and don't really know what to do here. A few days ago, my 30F ex's 32M new girlfriend 27F texted me out of the blue and told me, first politely and then not so much, to back the fuck off and not contact my ex anymore cause, apparently, it's disrespectful and I should be over it by now. Some context here, my ex and I broke up roughly 6 years ago but we are still friends. Why? Cause we didn't have a reason not to. Our breakup wasn't a dramatic one, just two people who'd been together since their late teens realizing that they wanted different things in life. But since we still got along great and he had his daughter, my niece, who I basically helped raise, we decided to stay friends. The reason his girlfriend's message surprised me as much as it did is that it came really out of the blue. I didn't even know she had my number. She has absolutely zero reason to be suspicious or anything. My ex and I still hang out, yes, but always with either my niece or other friends. And, on occasion, we go to school events for my niece, like, when she has a performance or something. I genuinely don't think I've done anything with him one-on-one since before our breakup I think. The most, one-on-one, he and I ever do is when he drops off or picks up my niece. she has a room at my place, in case that matters, and we wait for her to get her things. But that's all. Also, his girlfriend and I have met before at my niece's and then my ex's birthday and she was nice both times. We didn't talk much, just regular, hi, how are you, nice to meet you, that's a lovely dress, bye, so I didn't think she had any issues with me. On top of that, I'm dating someone new, too. So yeah, I'm not sure what her deal is at all. And when she texted me, my arse was halfway to giving my ex a ring and telling him to maybe have a chat with his girlfriend cause something is definitely wrong, but another part of me really doesn't want to interfere with his relationship like that. My ex is a good dude and, from what my niece told me and from what I've seen at the 2 birthdays, he really adores her. Like, he genuinely gets puppy eyes when he looks at her, which that stoic arse man never does. He deserves to be this happy, he really does. And, most importantly, my niece likes her too. That wasn't the case with the 2 other girlfriends he'd had since we broke up, so this is a huge issue I need to consider, too. Telling him would put all of this in jeopardy, but like, what else am I supposed to do? I'm defo not going to cut contact with either my niece or my ex just cause she wants me to, no fucking way, but she was rather insistent on the matter, so I don't think she'll leave it alone either. My flatmate is team, tell him and get it over with, but she's, with love, a bit of a prick, so I'm hesitant to take her word on anything. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. He deserves to know if his girlfriend is talking to his friends like that or making accusations of flirting with him. Tell him. Reply, that is the wildest part, she didn't even accuse me of flirting with him. Like, if she had been able to genuinely tell me what upset her then I could have cleared the air, but she really just wants me gone cause she thinks exes have no business being friends. But yeah, I think I'll have to give him a call tonight, even if he does nothing, at least he knows. Commenter 2, send him the screenshots. But tell him he can step back from being a friend but not to take your niece away from you. This kind of stupid childish drama is not good for a kid. Reply, oh defo. Not that I think he would drag my niece into this, he's not the type. Also, I'm pretty much the closest thing to a maternal figure she has and have been ever since she was like, 2. I think. So yeah, doubt he'd take that from her. And he knows I'd fist fight him if he dared to try, lol, but I'll defo make sure to mention it. Commenter 3, one of my non-negotiables is somebody whose ex still comes around the family, but I make sure to make that known at the beginning of the relationship. She shouldn't have came at you the way she did, but sometimes when it comes to an ex, you don't realize how disrespectful some of the things you two are doing can be seen by the new partners. Reply, I guess that's fine, but in that case it's really silly that she's only coughing that up now. I think they've been together for a year and a half. And she's dating someone with a kid, too, isn't an ex to be expected in that scenario? Granted, our case is a little special cause my niece's mother bailed and I'm there instead, but still. Aside from that, I can see that disrespectful thing in general, but really not with my ex, and I, genuinely, the most we do is hug hello and goodbye, and that's normal in my country, as in, I hugged his girlfriend too. Aside from that, I guess I usually pop by on Christmas for an hour or 2 cause of my niece. But outside of that there's nothing that I wouldn't do with any other friend too. I do think she knows that, however, cause when I asked her to give me examples or a situation where I could have made her uncomfortable she couldn't say anything. Just that I bothered her. Update, hi again. First, I did end up calling my ex after I came back from work last night. I was insanely nervous cause I still felt and still do feel bad about rocking the boat, but yeah, you guys were right. It should be his decision if he wants to cut me off, not his GF's. Now, after some regular chatter I went in and told him what happened and even read him some of the messages his girlfriend had sent me. He didn't say much, as I did not that I expected him to. That man has a daily average of 15 words. 25 if he's feeling very chatty. And mostly just listen quietly. I couldn't gauge his reaction, so I kind of ended up rambling and mentioning some of the things you guys had advised me to. You know how he can step back if that's what he needs. I'd respect his decision on that, but how I'd appreciate it if we could keep my niece out of it and all that. The latter part is kind of where he spoke up, mostly to snort, you idiot, and then he told me he already knew that she'd texted me cause my boyfriend told him their friends and coworkers. My boyfriend apparently noticed that I was more upset than I wanted to let on and asked my ex to call me cause something happened between her, me, and my ex's, girlfriend. Which makes sense, BTW. I've asked my boyfriend if my behavior with my ex was ever uncomfortable or inappropriate after the GF texted me, just to make sure I wasn't doing something wrong without being aware of it, and I have been stewing over this mess for like, nigh a week, so yeah. Not surprised my boyfriend noticed something was up. My ex chose to wait until I said something myself before breaching the topic, though. My boyfriend didn't tell him what exactly happened, but my ex sort of figured it was something like her telling me to cut contact. He then, once again, told me that I'm an idiot and that I should have told him immediately, 'cause this wasn't on. The two of them, so he and his GF talked about this before, even before they officially got together, and he'd made it very clear that there was no way in hell he'd be cutting me off 'cause I've been his friend before I was his girlfriend and I've stayed his friend for long after that, and 'cause I'm basically my niece's mom or the closest thing she has to a mom. So, before they started dating, he told her that she'd have to be cool with that. He'd understand if she wasn't, but he'd not change his mind 'cause I've done the legwork and she hasn't. Now, according to him, she was absolutely fine with it and even told him that she really liked me and wanted to get to know me more after the birthdays I mentioned prior, so he doesn't know what has gotten into her. I asked him if she mentioned something else at a later time, like, that something I did or said made her uncomfortable or feel insecure, but he said no. She also didn't hint at anything. And yes, I asked multiple times with examples just to make sure, 'cause, respectfully, my ex isn't great at taking hints. At all. His brain is wired strictly forward, so anything slightly obscure does not ring any bells in his wee head. As we chattered on, still trying to work out what could have ticked her off, he suddenly got really quiet and I was like, "Dude, you there?" And he then said that he may have an idea what did it for her. He didn't tell me what though, 'cause he said it's a conversation he needs to have with her first, so I didn't ask further. He did assure me that it was nothing I did, though. We pretty much left it at that, and he told me he'd have a chat with her and see what's up and, depending on what it is, he'd let me know. So now we wait. Oh, and we both kind of hope that she left it at contacting me and didn't talk to my niece about this. She's kind of been in a funk all week but keeps telling us it's nothing, so we kind of assumed it was hormones and or stress and told her to take it easy. But since the dates of her bad mood and the GF messaging me line up, we're a bit worried that she mentioned something or asked my niece to cut me off or whatever. Anyway, thanks for the advice you guys gave me and for telling me to just get it over with. I genuinely don't think I would have done it otherwise. If I hear anything interesting, I'll let you guys know, but until then I think this is it. Thanks. Edit. I think a lot of people are confused by my niece being my niece and also my ex's kid. Sorry, I should have reiterated that before things got muddled. A short stack of facts. My ex 32M is a teen dad. He had my niece while he was still in the equivalent of high school. He and I 30F got together roughly a year after she was born, but he only introduced me to her when she was 2.5. Since I was still pretty young then, I wasn't super comfortable with being called Mom, so my niece ended up calling me Auntie, my name. This stuck and she still calls me Aunt today and I call her niece, but we're not related by blood. Her bio mom is not and has never been in the picture. I did all the mom things, from potty training her to seeing most of her firsts to going to her parent-teacher conferences and whatnot. This is why my ex says I'm the closest thing she has to a mother. And, to finish it up, my ex and I didn't break up recently. We broke up 6 years ago 'cause we wanted different things in life. We stayed in contact 'cause we've always been friends first and, most importantly, 'cause of my niece. These days, my niece comes to stay with me at least every other week, sometimes more, sometimes less, 'cause my ex and I are both chill with her choosing for herself and she has her own room at my place. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, sounds like your ex has a solid understanding of your role in his and your niece's life, which is great. His GF's behavior is still a bit odd though, especially since she apparently liked you before. Glad you were able to clear the air. Reply, yeah, it really makes this whole thing even stranger. I really hope he lets me know what it ended up being, just for my own peace of mind and, admittedly, 'cause I'm a wee bit curious. If she actually ends up telling him, that is. Commenter 2, your nerves were totally understandable, but it's good you took control of the situation. Now at least everyone's cards are on the table and your ex knows exactly where you stand. Reply, yeah, NGL, I'm a huge was where things like these are concerned. I'm fine arguing and fighting myself if no one else is involved. I do, however, genuinely hate being a bother to anyone and rocking the boat by tattling on her, but yeah, at least now it's kind of off my chest and out of my hands. My ex can probably try to work it out better than I can. Commenter 3, anyway you can peek at your niece's phone. I'm not normally an advocate for this, but if your niece is young, what the GF said could be causing harm. I think you need to find out. Reply, generally, yes I could. And I wouldn't even need to peek, she's fine with us checking her phone after we explained that both my ex and I had our fair share of cyber bullies back in the day, the struggles of being/dating a teen dad in the late aughts, and that we're maybe a bit paranoid of that happening to her, so she's fine with that. But she's with my ex right now, so I don't have access to her phone. I'll ask him to check in if, for some reason, he can't, I'll have a check myself once she comes over tomorrow. Good thinking. Commenter 4, my fear is the girlfriend tried to make the niece decide between her and you. And did not get the answer she wanted. Reply, oh damn, pardon my French, but she'd be so fucking dumb if she actually did that. She's been with my ex and thus in my niece's life for like, a year or so now. That's really not a lot of time in general, but definitely not compared to me. It'd be crazy if she actually expected any decent results from that. Commenter 5, could she be pregnant? If she was, maybe it triggered a reaction in her where she wants one happy family and have your niece as her daughter. Reply, oh holy shit. I did not think of that. She probably could be, I'm not exactly asking my ex about his sex life, but I'd assume that yeah, she could. But that'd be a whole arse mess cause, from what I know, my ex doesn't want more kids. Stories number 16. My neighbor's dog has literally memorized my work schedule and waits for me every single day at exactly 5:17 p.m. Okay, so this is probably the sweetest thing that's ever happened to me and I can't not share it. My neighbor has this golden retriever named Charlie. Charlie is, well, peak golden retriever. The kind of dog who looks at you like you hung the moon, tail wagging like it's about to fall off, goofy smile, full of sunshine vibes. When I first moved in, our encounters were super random. Sometimes I'd see him while I was bringing groceries in, sometimes while taking out the trash, or on my way to work. I'd stop, give him some ear scritches, maybe toss a stick if he had one, and that would be it. Just the occasional neighborhood dog friendship. But lately, something weird has been happening. I started noticing that whenever I came home from work, usually sometime between 5 o'clock and 5:30, Charlie was always right there by the fence. Like, sitting pretty, tail going at full helicopter speed, eyes locked on me like he'd been waiting all day for this exact moment. At first, I chalked it up to coincidence. I mean, dogs hang out outside, right? Maybe he just liked being out there in the evenings. But then I started paying attention to the timing. And it wasn't random. Monday, I pulled into my driveway at 5:17 p.m. Charlie was there, already waiting, tail smacking the fence like a drum. Tuesday, I got home at 5:19. He was there again. Wednesday, 5:15 still there. It was too precise. It's like this dog literally memorized the sound of my car pulling up or just knew my schedule better than I did. So today I finally asked my neighbor about it. I was half laughing, half curious, like hey, does Charlie just know when I'm coming home or something? Because I swear he's always there. And my neighbor just goes, oh yeah. He waits for you. Apparently, Charlie heads to the fence around 4:45 every afternoon. Just parks himself there and waits. If I'm on time, great, he's thrilled. If I'm late, he starts pacing and whining like I stood him up for a date. I swear to you, this dog has a better attendance record than some of my coworkers. Now it's officially part of our routine. I bring him a little treat every day when I get home, nothing big, just a small biscuit or a piece of jerky, and he acts like I've handed him the keys to the universe. Pure, tail-thumping, golden retriever joy. It's honestly the best part of my day now. No matter how stressful work is, or how bad traffic gets, I know that at 5:17 p.m., there's a golden retriever waiting at the fence just to see me. And honestly, I don't deserve him. Comments. Commenter 1. I have a cat that lives a few doors up from me. She now recognizes my car, so when I drive past her house on the way to park my car she trots down. When I get out the car she's there on the pavement waiting for pets. I usually ask her how her day was, to which she normally meows, then after a few minutes of pets and conversation she walks back home. Commenter 2. After elementary school, I had to start walking home from school. I'd get dropped off in the morning by mom. It was sometime after that my neighbor in the house right before mine got a mastiff puppy, Lee. Lee soon memorized the time I would come home. If he was inside, he'd bark at me from the window. If he was outside, he would break out of his yard, run down the driveway and tackle me. No, he wasn't aggressive. Big ol' softy who wanted cuddles and playtime. Lee just forgot his own strength, acting like a pup even when he was a giant beast. Lee passed away about a year or so ago, I heard. He was a good boy. Stories number 17. My M32 younger brother M22 passed away 5 years ago and his ex-roommate stole his bitcoins afterwards. My younger brother passed away nearly 5 years ago from an overdose which devastated my family at the time. I knew he was into drugs and continually warned him about it, but he assured me he had it under control. I couldn't really take the high moral ground anyhow since he knew I had also indulged in it myself in my younger days, though that wasn't exactly a secret in my family. I was posted overseas when it happened and felt some guilt that if I hadn't been away I would have been able to prevent him being influenced by his circle of friends at the time, but ultimately I realized I was not my brother's keeper. Afterwards I assisted my parents with putting his belongings into storage to be sorted out at a later date and returned to my job. When my contract ended I returned home and had the time to sort through some of my brother's things that my parents hadn't looked at yet. Among them was his computer, which I was hoping might have had some photos or other things of interest on it. I managed to salvage a few good pictures and video, though most of it was of him hanging out with his friends at the time. It was still good to have a few extra memories of him from back then. It was while I was going through the installed programs I noticed he had Bitcoin software installed. I know he used it to buy certain things for himself and his friends online, so it wasn't a surprise to me that he had this. I knew that Bitcoin had gone up in value over the past several years, so part of me hoped he might have had an amount there, but when I ran the Bitcoin program it said zero balance. I wasn't too surprised at that until I looked at the transaction details. There was regular activity there right up until the week before he passed away, and then nothing after that, until 2 years ago when the total balance at the time of 147 Bitcoins was transferred out of it. This made no sense to me, unless someone else had a copy of his account or had hacked them from him somehow. But then I checked the history log on the computer and lo and behold, it had been started up several times on the date the transfer happened. Going back to my parents, I asked them if anyone else had used the computer since they got it back from storage. They remembered that yes, 2 years ago my brother's old roommate looked them up and asked if they still had his computer and could he use it to get a copy of some files to do with their old rental. They had let him use it for a couple of hours and he left afterwards and hadn't heard from him since. I looked him up on social media and from his post history it seems like he suddenly came into some serious money judging from the purchases and activities he was involved with at around the same time. So where do I go from here? The evidence strongly points to his having stolen the Bitcoins, but what are my options? Do I confront him directly and do I have anything to stand on? My parents went through a lot over the years and it would be good if I could at least give them back something for all their blood, sweat and tears. And I know it's what my brother would have wanted. TLDR, younger brother passes away leaving a secret Bitcoin stash behind. Ex-roommate tricks my parents into giving him access to his computer before anyone can find it and steals them. Edit, thanks for the advice so far, particularly the suggestion to post about this to Bitcoin for help. I will be driving down to my parents this weekend to check the computer for the Bitcoin information to investigate this further. This community is amazing. I will continue to post updates as they happen. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Get in contact with a lawyer immediately. 2. Do your parents still have the message where he asked to use the computer? Security footage when he was at your house. Anything is useful here. If you don't have it, see what your lawyer thinks about this idea, something along the lines as, contact him and ask if he used your brother's computer about 2 years ago, when he was deceased, and make sure it's on paper. 3. Was the computer password protected? 4. Post the address that the coins were sent to, maybe some Bitcoiners can help try and find out which exchange he has used to cash out. Then we can try and contact the exchange for extra help. Hopefully this guy has sold his Bitcoins through an exchange where he was verified with his passport/address, and then I think you'll have a solid case. Edit, also you need to act fast, the guy might be reading this subreddit and he might come across this post. Good luck. Reply, appreciate the quick response, I'll answer in point form. I'd like to avoid legal if possible due to what my brother was using them for and also the cost. Not ruling it out later though. 2. There was no password set. 3. I will post an update with the address information when I have it. Since it looks likely he did cash it out, I really hope you are right about his having done it somewhere he can be tracked. Commenter 2. Good luck with legal pursuit of action in this circumstance. There is a reason why Bitcoin is used on the darknet markets. Reply, that is my only concern with this if we do pursue this legally. I know my brother was using them for less than legal purchases at the time, which could be linked back to the Bitcoins. Commenter 3. What are they going to do, arrest your brother? The worst case scenario would be to seize the Bitcoins, which I doubt would happen. Mini update. Just an update, I was sent a PM from a fairly notable individual in this subreddit with an offer to help, which I have accepted based on his history and reputation here. On his advice I will be collecting the computer from my parents' place later today instead of the weekend so we can jump on this ASAP due to this now being out in the open. He is also using his connections to get a free legal opinion from someone qualified in this area. I can't say much else until I hear back from them, but I will be sure to provide further details as soon as I am able. For now, I just want to thank the community in Bitcoin for all the kind words and advice you have given. It's people like you who restore my faith in humanity after experiencing idiots like my brother's ex-roommate. I originally posted to the relationship sub but was quickly directed to repost to the Bitcoin sub to see if anyone there could offer any advice. Soon after doing that, I was privately approached by a credible individual from this group with an offer of assistance, which myself and my parents accepted. Through their network of contacts, we received expert technical advice and forensic analysis at absolutely no cost whatsoever, and legal representation that truly understood the issue at hand and was prepared to work on a no-win, no-fee basis. We owe all these people a massive debt of gratitude for what they have been able to achieve for us here, and has finally come to a conclusion in these last few weeks. The analysis of the computer took several weeks before we heard back, but the results were extremely promising. They had identified that while all the bitcoins had indeed been transferred to another wallet, not all the bitcoins in this wallet had been spent. There was still approximately 36 bitcoins remaining in there that had not been touched. Of what had been spent, there was significant trails of evidence, which was used as the starting point of commencing legal action against the individual in question. It has taken time and much of it is under non-disclosure, but what I can confirm is that an agreement was made to withdraw our case against him in return for transferring this remaining balance back to my brother's estate. Yesterday our lawyer let us know that this has now been done. They are handling the technical aspects of this for us, but the upshot is that the cash equivalent of nearly 29 bitcoins will shortly be transferred to my parents. This couldn't have come at a better or more needed time. The past 12 months with COVID-19 has taken a significant toll on them. Their business was up against the wall and they potentially stood to lose everything unless things turned around, so this cash infusion has taken away all that fear and stress they were living under. This entire saga began with the premature death of my brother. It now concludes with him leaving behind a legacy of hope and optimism for our parents. Somewhere, up there, I know he is smiling and cheering them on. In the end, you did good, Raf. Stories number 18. Aita for not blocking the bathroom door while my husband collected a sperm sample. So, I 25F never thought I'd be on Reddit, but here we are. My husband 25M and I have been struggling with infertility for 3 years now. It's been a rough journey, countless doctor visits, treatments, tracking, the works. Recently, we finally got referred to a specialist who ordered a sperm analysis for my husband. Now, if you've never had to deal with fertility clinics, here's how it works: the sample has to get to the lab within an hour of collection. That means you either do it at the hospital if they have facilities, at a nearby hotel, or at the fertility clinic if they allow it. So, last week, after a brutal 12-hour night shift at work, my husband picked me up so we could go together. It's a 2-hour drive to the hospital where the lab is, so we had to time everything carefully. Here's where it gets messy. He didn't want to use the fertility clinic's collection room because, in his words, I don't want anyone knowing what I'm doing. I mean, it's literally a fertility clinic. They know. But fine, I wasn't going to push it. We decided to do it at the hospital. The problem? We got there, walked around for 15 minutes, and realized there wasn't a private single-stall bathroom we could use. The only options were multi-stall public restrooms. I suggested, why don't we just grab a cheap hotel room nearby? At least then he'd have privacy. He said no, insisted it was fine, and decided to use a public men's bathroom anyway. So I waited in a nearby waiting area, trying to give him space. About 20 minutes later, he comes out looking furious. Apparently, while he was in there, 3 different men walked in to use the restroom. And now he's mad at me, because I should have been blocking the door so no one could get in. Here's the thing, he never asked me to do that beforehand. Even if he had, it's a public bathroom. What was I supposed to do? Stand outside, tell strangers, sorry, my husband's in there, doing private fertility stuff? I had no idea what excuse I could have made without making it 1000x more awkward. The rest of the day got ruined. He was so angry he cancelled our other plans, and we sat in silence for the entire 2-hour drive home. He hasn't exactly apologized or brought it up since, but I can tell he's still simmering about it. And honestly, I feel like he's being unfair. This was my first time experiencing this whole fertility testing thing too. I was exhausted after work, stressed, and just trying to help. I don't see how I was supposed to magically know to guard the door like some kind of fertility bouncer. He keeps making me feel like I failed him in some huge way, but I can't help but think he's projecting his embarrassment onto me. So Reddit. Aita for not blocking a public bathroom door while my husband collected a sperm sample. Update, Aita for not blocking the bathroom door while my husband collected a sperm sample. Wow. I honestly didn't expect my post to blow up the way it did. Thank you to everyone who commented. I read way more NTAs than I thought I would, and a lot of you made me realize just how much of my husband's embarrassment was being dumped on me instead of handled by him. So, a few things happened after I posted. First, my husband and I finally sat down and had a serious conversation. At first, he was defensive, saying things like you just don't get how humiliating it was for me and you could have done more to help me out. I let him vent, but then I asked him point blank, what exactly did you expect me to do? Stand outside a men's bathroom and tell strangers they can't pee? That kind of stopped him in his tracks. He admitted he hadn't actually thought through what blocking the door would have looked like, just that he felt panicked and embarrassed when people came in, and in that panic, he redirected that frustration at me because I was the safest target. I told him that wasn't fair, especially considering I had just worked a 12-hour night shift and was still there supporting him through something we're both going through. I reminded him that infertility isn't just his struggle or mine, it's ours. And if we start treating each other like enemies instead of partners, this process is going to break us. He got quiet after that. The next day, he actually came to me and apologized, a real apology, not the half-hearted kind. He admitted he felt emasculated by the whole process. He grew up in a pretty traditional family where men don't talk about feelings, so even needing to go through fertility testing was making him feel less than. Sitting in a public bathroom doing something so vulnerable made all of those insecurities flare up, and instead of processing them, he lashed out at me. We also talked about practical solutions for the future. We agreed that next time, we're either booking a cheap hotel room, or we're using the clinic's collection room. He admitted he was being stubborn about that because of pride. I told him I'd still support him, but I'm not playing door security guard in a men's restroom, and he agreed that was unreasonable. As for our relationship, I won't lie, this whole thing shook me a bit. It's hard not to take it personally when your partner gets mad at you for something you literally had no control over. But his willingness to reflect and actually apologize made me feel better. He's even started reading a little about male infertility and shame after I shared some articles people linked in the comments, which I think is a huge step forward. So yeah, we're okay now. It wasn't really about the bathroom at all, it was about him struggling with the emotions tied to infertility and not knowing how to communicate that without lashing out. And for the record, the sample made it to the lab on time. We don't have results yet, but at least that part went smoothly. TLDR, husband was mad I didn't block the bathroom door while he collected a sperm sample in a public restroom. After a lot of comments and a serious talk, he admitted he was embarrassed and took it out on me. He apologized, we made a plan for next time hotel room or clinic, and we're working on communicating better. Final update, Aita for not blocking the bathroom door while my husband collected a sperm sample. Hi again. This will be my last update on this because I think we've finally reached a point of resolution. After my last post, a lot of people suggested therapy or counseling, both for infertility stress and for our relationship. Honestly, I didn't think my husband would go for it. But after some hesitation, he agreed to try one session with a couples therapist who specializes in fertility-related issues. It was eye-opening. The therapist got my husband to admit that a lot of his anger wasn't actually directed at me, it was at himself. He feels like he's failing as a man because fertility treatments force him into situations where his masculinity feels under a microscope. Collecting a sample in a hospital bathroom just pushed him over the edge, and instead of dealing with that, he unfairly made me the target. Hearing him say that in front of a neutral person was huge. I think it helped both of us realize that the bathroom fight was never about the bathroom, it was about shame, fear, and frustration. Since then, he's been making an effort to communicate better. He's actually started asking me, what do you need from me today? Which he never used to do. And when he feels stressed, he's trying to say I'm embarrassed or I'm anxious instead of lashing out. It's not perfect, but it's progress. We also made a concrete plan for future sample collections. Either we use the clinic's private collection room, he finally admitted it won't be as humiliating as he imagined, or we'll book a hotel room close by if that makes him more comfortable. No more public bathrooms, and no more putting me in impossible positions. And as for the test results, we got them back last week. Without going into details, the results weren't perfect, but they weren't catastrophic either. The doctor thinks we still have a good chance with some medical help, so we're moving forward with the next steps. We're both nervous, but now we feel like we're approaching this as a team instead of opponents. So yeah, this whole ordeal was messy and frustrating, but it forced us to have conversations we probably would have avoided for way too long. If nothing else, it's brought us closer. Thank you to everyone who reminded me that I'm not crazy or selfish for not blocking a men's bathroom door. Seriously, some of your comments made me laugh when I really needed it. TLDR final, husband was embarrassed about sperm collection and unfairly took it out on me for not blocking a public bathroom. We fought, talked it out, he apologized, and we started therapy. Learned it was really about shame and infertility stress, not me. We now have a plan, test results came back manageable, and we're moving forward together. Stories number 19. Aita for letting my pregnant daughter move in with me even though my girlfriend doesn't want her to. I 40M have an 18-year-old daughter with my ex-wife, call her Maddie. We divorced when she was 7, and I have her 3 weekends a month. Her mom moved to a suburb almost an hour outside the city to be closer to her family and for a better school. My work was in the city, and after a while Maddie got sick of all the driving and asked if we could go to a different schedule. We talked most days on the phone, and I have been very involved in her life. She's a great student, graduated with over a 4.0, has a lot of friends and a what I thought very nice boyfriend. She has no idea what she wants to do with her life, and had already decided to defer her scholarship a year to take classes at the community college and work. I also have a girlfriend Vera 37 and she gets along with Maddie great. We've been together about 2 years and she just moved into my house a few months ago. Edit. Her old roommate got married and she couldn't afford rent alone. We've been together almost 2 years and I was considering proposing, so it seemed like a good idea after she couldn't find another place. She pays the electric and water bills but my house is paid off, so I just pay taxes, insurance, and the other utilities, and it's been great. I didn't really date much the past few years between Maddie and work, so it's nice having someone always around. Vera doesn't want kids of her own, and I don't want any more, so it's been great. So for all that, Maddie is pregnant and her mom has kicked her out. Her boyfriend has another year left of nursing school and lives in a college apartment with roommates. She is of course staying here for now and found out late, she's due in January. She and her boyfriend went over the options and decided to keep the baby. She told me very meekly and asked if she could stay. I told her of course, she knows this is disappointing but she'll never stop being my baby, and if this is what's going to happen, I'm here to support her within reason. As in, I'm fine babysitting if she has work or class, and she will keep working and going to school, but I'm not babysitting for her to party or hang out with friends. If the boyfriend bails, which I was as kind as I could be but told her happens even with the nicest boys, she would need to file child support. And I would give her grace before and after birth, but when she's recovered she will go back to doing chores on top of baby ones. I told her and the boyfriend to sleep on it and they did and came back with actual thoughtful responses, and even a budget goal that I found impressive. So, the tiny bedroom next to Maddie's that is currently home to a treadmill I never use is going to be a nursery. Of course I've kept Vera in the loop during all of this edit, and by this I mean I don't know how many different ways I need to put this so it gets through people's heads. Vera and I discussed all of this before I talked to the kids. In depth. I made her very aware that the 3 of them could end up living here for a few years. She was supportive. I kept her in the loop. When them living here became the plan, she gave me an ultimatum and told me to kick my daughter out BC she's an adult. I told her I wouldn't do that. She is still here and making everyone uncomfortable, and she seemed really understanding until I told her the plan. She got upset and said if she wanted to raise a baby she'd have one of her own. She said she didn't sign up for this and is not okay with it, and demanded I rescind the offer, that Maddie is 18 and needs to figure it out on her own if she wants to keep the baby. I told her I wouldn't do that, she'll always be my daughter and needs help. She threatened to move out if I didn't tell Maddie to get out, then got mad that I told her I understood. Now she's avoiding the both of us but still staying here or being snippy. I don't know what she expects me to do, but it's making the entire house anxious. Edit. Stop saying that. Vera would be shocked that Maddie moved in. This is Maddie's home. She's always lived here. Yes, the rest is a surprise, but not my daughter living in her home. Comments. Commenter 1. Say goodbye to this relationship. Commenter 2. Time to tell you GF she can do what's best for her, but your daughter will probably be here for 3 to 4 years. Let her know you want her to stay but your life will change. Reply. That's what I told her, she's not happy about it and being rude to me. Commenter 3. 18 is barely an adult, and actual adults who think 18 is a proper age to be 100% on your own are a problem. Good job still being willing to be a parent to your child when she needs you. NTA. Stories number 20. My wife bought concert tickets and I feel invisible. It's small in the grand scheme of things. $500 on concert tickets, plus travel. Maybe it'll be a fun memory for the kids. But the thing that stings isn't the money. It's the lack of consideration. It feels like my priorities never matter. Earlier this year my laptop died. I use it for work, it was 5 years old, and I really needed a replacement. The answer was no. Can't get one now. Just a few days later though, she and the girls went out for nails. She said she'd DoorDash to cover it, but when the bill came, it was me who paid. Bye-bye Christmas savings. In July, she took 2 Girl Scout trips, including one with kids that weren't even ours, and then a trip to DC. Toss in rehab appointments, extra expenses, and suddenly the $2,000 I had put aside for a laptop was gone. Our anniversary came and went without much acknowledgement. We had a nice dinner later in Knoxville, but it wasn't just us, it never is. She even asked why I didn't get her flowers, even though I didn't even have a working truck to get out. So when she dropped money on these tickets, it felt like a giant FU. She'll frame it as something fun, maybe suggest we haul the camper to Alabama to make it an adventure. But the camper hasn't been touched since 2021, and frankly I'm not confident my truck can even make that trip. On top of that, we have other commitments that weekend. Meanwhile, I'm the one who dug deep to come up with $3,500 cash for my daughter's car. Nobody asks where it comes from, nobody notices what sacrifices I make. It just gets assumed I can produce money out of thin air. And when the bank account gets low, somehow that's my fault too. Why didn't you move the bonus money out? Now it's gone. Gone on hair appointments, knickknacks, and Dairy Queen cups. Meanwhile I'm wearing 5-year-old shoes with the soles glued back on and sewing my own pants. I keep telling myself not to care about material stuff. But honestly, I'd like working spark plugs in her car. I'd like a grill that isn't busted, windows without holes, a working oven, or mulch in the flower beds. I'd like a new laptop. Hell, I'd like a vacation. She's had several this year. The kids have too. Me? I stayed home. I even skipped a conference that would have helped my business. But instead of any of that, we have rock concert tickets. I'll probably swallow this down like I always do, rationalize it away, pretend it's fine. But right now, it feels selfish. It feels like I don't matter. And it hurts. My birthday's Friday. I don't expect or want anything. Comments. Commenter 1. It sounds like you need to put your foot down more. Why is she making executive financial decisions or telling you what you can or can't buy when you're the one coming up with the money? That's kind of ridiculous. Commenter 2. Moments like these that hammer home the fact that most divorces are due to financial incompatibility/problems. OP, you are meant to be a team, why is she the only one with a voice in this conversation, especially when it sounds like she is spending money only you seem to be earning? Commenter 3. Why is your wife in charge of your money? Do you not have a separate bank account and a joint account for the family expenses? Stories number 21. AIO, am I out of line? Men in my husband's family having a day called No Women, No Rules. So here's the situation. My husband 32M comes from a very tradition-heavy family. They have their little inside jokes, sayings, and generational quirks that everyone seems to hold dear. Most of it is harmless, except this one thing that's been bothering me. Apparently, his late grandfather started this tradition decades ago where all the men and boys in the family would have a fishing trip once a year. They'd call it No Women, No Rules Day. Now, I want to be very clear, I don't think it was created to be cruel, misogynistic, or hateful. It honestly sounds like it was just old-school dad humor from back in the day, something light-hearted that stuck. My husband has really fond memories of it, and he swears up and down it was never about putting women down, just about bonding with the guys. That said, the actual words make me cringe. I've told my husband before that while I think it's sweet he treasures those childhood memories, I don't want that phrase being something we pass down to our kids. To me, it sets up this weird dynamic of fun with dad equals no women, no rules while time with mom equals rules, nagging, not fun. Even if that wasn't the intention, kids latch onto stuff like that. The last thing I want is our son growing up thinking I'm the killjoy while dad equals fun because mom's not around. Fast forward to now, we just had our first baby, a boy, and already the family is buzzing about continuing the tradition. My husband and father-in-law are over the moon about it. His dad even had a toy chest custom-made for the baby with a boat painted on it and the words No Women, No Rules written across the front. When they gave it to us, both my husband and his dad were in tears remembering Grandpa. I'll admit, it broke my heart a little, because I know how much this means to them. But at the same time, all I could think was, great, now my baby has furniture literally branded with a slogan I can't stand. So I brought it up again. I suggested maybe tweaking the wording a little, like Boys Fishing Day. Or something nostalgic that keeps the meaning but without the baggage. But when I floated that idea, dead silence. My husband looked devastated, and my father-in-law looked like I had just spit on Grandpa's grave. Now I feel like the bad guy who's ruining a wholesome family tradition. I don't want to squash their memories, but I also don't want my kid growing up chanting, no women, no rules. Every time he doesn't want to eat broccoli. I'm caught between respecting a family legacy and protecting the kind of messaging I want around my child. I honestly don't think I'm being unreasonable here. Words matter, and even if it was innocent in the past, we can adapt traditions for modern times. But the way my husband's family looks at me right now, I feel like I've just destroyed a sacred ritual. So, Reddit. AIO for wanting to change or scrap the no women, no rules phrase, even though it's tied to my husband's family memories. Update, no women, no rules tradition. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up. Thank you to everyone who commented, whether you agreed with me or thought I was overthinking it, I read every single perspective. A lot of people brought up things I hadn't thought about, like how kids don't always understand context and might actually take no women, no rules literally. Others said I shouldn't try to erase a tradition that clearly means so much to my husband's family. Honestly, both sides made valid points. After posting, I sat down with my husband to really talk about it. I didn't want this to become some big dramatic family feud, but I also didn't want to silently swallow my discomfort forever. I told him straight, I love that you had this special bond with your grandpa. I want our son to have traditions too. But I need you to see how it feels from my side. If our kid is raised hearing, no women, no rules, guess who he's going to think the rule maker and not fun parent is? Me. At first, he was defensive. He said, it's not about you, it's about Grandpa's memory. And I get that. But I asked him if Grandpa's memory was really tied to the words, or to the time spent fishing together. That's when it clicked for him. He admitted he'd never thought about it like that, he just saw it as part of the package deal. The compromise we came to, we're keeping the tradition of the fishing trip, but we're tweaking the slogan. Instead of no women, no rules, they'll call it Guys' Day Out or Fishing with the Boys. That way, the spirit of the tradition is alive, but our kid isn't repeating a phrase that feels off in 2025. As for the toy chest, my husband was nervous about bringing it up to his dad, so we agreed to keep it as is for now. It meant too much to FIL to repaint it, and honestly, I can live with it as a family heirloom, especially since we've updated the tradition moving forward. When our son is old enough to read, we'll just explain it as something Grandpa used to say back in the day and not a motto to live by. When we told my FIL, he was very quiet at first. Then he sighed and said, your grandpa would have just wanted you boys together. He wouldn't have cared what you called it. Which, honestly felt like the best blessing we could have gotten. So yeah, I feel a lot better now. The tradition continues, the messaging is updated, and hopefully no one feels like the bad guy. TLDR, my husband's family had a fishing trip tradition called No Women, No Rules. I didn't want our son growing up repeating that, so I asked to tweak the phrase. At first, my husband and FIL were upset, but after a long talk, we agreed to keep the tradition but call it something else like Guys' Day Out. The toy chest with the old slogan is staying, but the new generation will grow up with a refreshed version of the tradition. Stories number 22. Aita for telling my half-sister that she needs to get over the fact we have different dads. I 25F have half-siblings from my mom's married to my stepdad. I was 3 weeks old when my dad died and I was 18 months old when my mom remarried. I get along well with most of my siblings but page 23F. We're the closest in age but she doesn't like me saying we share a mom but have different dads. She doesn't like that I don't claim my stepdad as my real dad period. I grew up around my paternal family and knowing about my real dad. While mom never talked about him and my stepdad didn't like him being talked about, my paternal family never let him be forgotten and because of all those circumstances I saw him as my real dad and never saw my stepdad as just my dad. I still have respect for my stepdad but I don't have full respect for him either. Had he accepted and encouraged me to know about my real dad we might be closer but it was a wound to his ego to have a kid he raised consider another man their dad, even if I wouldn't exist without my dad and that made me never fully connect with him like that. It's not like I hate him. But I feel like if he really wanted the best for me like he claimed, he would have done better at accepting me knowing about my biological dad, because he admits if he'd had the choice he would have kept me in the dark and let me believe he was my bio dad instead. He has also admitted he hates my dad's family for putting him between us because his one weakness means he can never compete. While mom said it's too hard to talk about dad, so she let his family take over doing that for me, Paige would always say we shared the same parents. Whenever I explained that we were siblings but I had a different dad to someone, Paige would be like, no, we don't, stop saying that. She'd tell me if her dad raised me it meant he was my dad too. Then in our teens she tried to say a few times that he was probably my bio dad too, and we were all full biological siblings. So after I turned 18 I did a DNA test with her to prove we were half siblings. The argument strained our relationships. None of my other siblings are bothered by me claiming my dad but Paige. She has yelled at our younger siblings for saying I have a different dad, or if they do anything that shows me as having a different dad. Like one of our brothers bought 2 Father's Day cards once and one said dad but the other said stepdad, and that one was for me. Right now I don't see or speak to Paige very often. Maybe once or twice a year. Our first time this year was a couple of weeks ago and she was bugging me because I had reposted something about the weirdness of losing a parent before you can form memories of them and the love you can still have for them. She was mad because it was me yet again bringing to light the fact we have different dads. I told her she's old enough to get over us having different dads and find a way to accept the reality because that's what it is. I told her that we might have been raised in the same household but without my dad I wouldn't exist and I won't ignore the man who made me just because she doesn't like it. She argued that her dad deserves better and why was it fair for him to share me with a man I never would have remembered. Then she told me I don't get to tell her what to accept or get over. She called our mom after and then mom called me and asked why I couldn't just let it go. She said after 20 years of fighting you'd think we'd be over this but it's still ongoing and it doesn't seem right, and mom said we're sisters not enemies, and as the oldest I could just learn to accept it. Hurts her to hear me dismiss her dad who raised me. Stories number 23. Aita for calling my husband's friendship with his coworker an emotional affair. Hi, my husband and I have been married for 2 years, and known each other for 4. We have an 11-month-old daughter. Our relationship is great, we've been loving our experience as parents. There's just this issue that I thought I had resolved, but my husband's behavior is making me think I went about it in an ahish way. Around December of last year, he had referred a woman he knew from his college days. I'd asked him back then if they'd been close friends. He had said they were kind of friends, not close enough to make plans to hang out together, but close enough that they'd hang oi if they saw each other. I was like totally fine with that obviously. Anyway, she got the job and works in his office, fortunately in a different team. Their friendship seemed to have been blossoming, which again was fine, although it had been intruding into his time at home. Often he'd get texts and smile and respond, and it would be from her. When I'd casually ask what she said it wouldn't be anything scandalous, sometimes a shared reference from their college life. He took me to a restaurant near his office once as a special night out, and midway through I learned he'd been here before with her. We were about to argue but he'd said it was just lunch and I also didn't want to ruin our night out, but that's when I really started side-eyeing it. And then finally when I was going through his phone for a number that he keeps in his contacts, she'd responded to him, and I just clicked on the notification and read some messages. She was complaining about the lack of luck on Tinder and was like going off about the kind of guy she's looking for. And now I don't really fully think she was making a pass, but just some things hit too close to home. My husband. I told him about what I'd read. He didn't mind the reading, we both are very open with our phones to each other. He was like, what's the issue? And I said the kind of conversations and the frequency with which they were happening, since they saw each other at work, went for lunch together, then had these kind of texts at home, it had become an emotional affair and he needed to cut her off. He looked like I'd slapped him. He argued back, really stressing the affair part that I'd said. I told him how stressed this was making me, and I needed all this communication outside work to be stopped, and later said at least has to be toned down significantly. He did agree to it, but made it clear how wrong I was in calling it an emotional affair. This happened on Thursday. He's been pretty cold since, like I don't think I've ever seen him act like this before. Yesterday, I was just cuddling with him and he wasn't being soft like he normally is when we cuddle, and he told me he couldn't believe I called it an emotional affair and that he'd ended it, but this hurt not only him for being accused of an affair but her too, who must think we're crazy. I was hurt and our night kind of ended like that. Have I been TA here? If I have been and am the reason our relationship has taken a hit, I'll fix it. Need a judgment. Update, Aita for calling my husband's friendship with his coworker an emotional affair. Last night, when we were watching TV, his responses to me were still standoffish, which honestly was messing with me more than the actual texts and lunches. So I brought it up with him. I asked if he was angry at me still due to our conversation a week ago. He said no, it's fine, but I still apologized to him. I said using the phrase emotional affair was too much. I said it without realizing what it truly meant. That I couldn't ever imagine him being unfaithful and hurting me and our daughter that way. And I didn't say this to him, and I'm not trying to make excuses, but now that we have our daughter, I think I just thought whatever he had with his workplace friend had the potential of messing with the life and family that we had now, so I might have said more than I should have. We made up in the moment with kisses and watching TV. I also said that I appreciated how quickly he dropped everything with her despite any misgivings he may have had about what I was asking of him. He said no problem and that he was glad he could be normal with her in less than a week and she wouldn't be too weirded out by all of it. I felt uncomfortable by that, and framed it in the way a lot of commenters had suggested I frame it. I told him, I was uncomfortable with how quickly and deeply his friendship with this single girl who was supposed to not even have been good friends with him, had strengthened. He again brought up trust, that he was his college friend and all. I said I trust him, just tone it down. I want my daughter and me to be his priority, not some random girl, and I kind of broke down a bit at this point. I know some comments had called me emotionally abusive, but ISTG, this wasn't something I had planned. I asked him to just not have her be a strong presence, and he said he would tone it down, that he'd keep the friendship to the way it was initially. I'm glad I cleared out the emotional affair part of it. I didn't like to have accused him of it, and it really wasn't. I crossed the line there. And I want to clarify, I'm okay with him having women as friends. One of his close friends is a girl, but again she doesn't get the same frequency of communication his coworker gets, especially when the work hours are factored in. Anyway, we made up after all of that, and hopefully we're back to the way we were before all of this. Thanks a lot. Hi, a few people had DM'd me asking if I was doing well. This is just my final update. First of all, I may have been rude in lashing out at the comments on my last post for not having said all that stuff on my first post. It was honestly my fault to have taken advice on this issue based on anonymous comments, rather than go to someone I trust, even if that meant I'm telling them about my marital issues, which is something I'd always been taught to avoid. I decided that while I wouldn't invalidate my feelings, I wouldn't bring it up again unless I felt uncomfortable again, and just trust my husband to handle it. And over the past few days, I didn't have any reason to bring it up again. The frequency really has decreased. In fact, he was the one who brought it up when his phone had pinged, and I brought it to him and saw it was her texting him. I wasn't going to bring it up because the texts had become few and far in between, but he started the topic and said that he had toned down their closeness for me. I thanked him and said it was good of her to be understanding too. He said he'd just told her it was all good, that it was a misunderstanding, but he'd just reduced the frequency of contact on his own side for me, because he knew her that she'd feel terrible about having caused issues, and why punish her for our issues. And she is his coworker and an acquaintance, so I get his POV, that why make it messy. But I'm happy with where we are, as difficult as this may have been, and I'm glad he was able to move past me using the phrase emotional affair too. Stories number 24. Aita for teaching a 3-year the definition of the word mistake. Every summer for the past couple of years I have worked different jobs as a summer nanny. When I stated nannying this past summer, I realized quickly that it would be unlike any other job I've had. Why, that is for another discussion. Anywho, a few weeks ago, one of the kids had their birthday. Their mom asked me to make them a cake for their party because I have previous experience making cakes. While she was out running errands, I got started on the cake and I ended up burning it because the kids were fighting and I had to deal with that. As I was cleaning up the mess from the burnt cake, the 3-year-old came up to me and asked why I is throwing the cake away, to which I responded, "Oh, it's because I made a mistake and burned it." He then asked, "What's a mistake?" Seeing this as a valuable teaching moment, I said a mistake is when you do something wrong by accident. Mistakes aren't a bad thing, even grown-ups like me make them. I actually think it is good to make mistakes, because you can learn from them. All you need to do is start over and try again. He was very content with that answer, and I didn't think anything about it. When his mom got home, she yelled at me for burning the cake. She was livid. I don't understand why, especially because I offered to reimburse her for the wasted materials and stay late without pay to make a new cake, but she screamed at me nonetheless and said she'll make it herself. Since then, the 3-year has been terrified of making mistakes. He won't do anything independently. She made me spend an hour each morning teaching him how to write, and one morning while he was refusing to write his name out of the fear of making a mistake, she stood up and screamed at the other kids and I. She said, "Who taught him what mistake means? When I find out, I'm going to be pissed." This is going to ruin him. I was shocked by her reaction, but once the initial fear wore off, the kids and I were terrified of her. I decided to own up to it because I didn't want the kids to get punished for it. I calmly explained that it was me and told her exactly what I said, and she fired me. She didn't give me an explanation why. The only thing she said after months of me working for them was, "I'll submit your last pay stub." That's how I figured I was fired, lol. Aita for teaching him what a mistake is. I don't see why she fired me over that. He was perfectly fine until he saw her reaction to my mistake. I think that teaching him the word just gave him a word to put his fear to. He saw how she reacted to me and he sees her screaming at his siblings daily. They have told me before that they can't stop doing something, albeit homework, piano, violin, etc., until it is perfect for mistakes they make, and that is what traumatized him. Please give me closure as to whether or not Aita. Let's just say I will never work as a nanny again. Kids are great, parents suck. Stories number 25. Overheard at a neuropsych assessment. We had our son assessed for learning disabilities recently. It was a really long day of testing and he was a mess at the end. Just overwhelmed and crying. We did eventually take a break, and he was okay. He insisted I sit just outside the testing room all day, so I got to overhear pretty much everything that was going on. The last 40 minutes or so were a series of questions with answers like never, sometimes, often, or almost always. My son, being overwhelmed after dozens of these questions, yelled his answer quite loudly, and the tester replied, "No yelling please. We don't yell here." It was obvious the tester was getting tired at this point too, so he took a deep breath, paused a moment and asked the next question/next statement to agree-disagree with. My life just keeps getting worse and worse. And my sweet sweet boy, stopped in his tracks, replied, "Oh no." Why? Are you okay? The tester replied, "No, that's for you to answer, never, sometimes, often, or almost always." I laughed aloud from the hallway, then stopped because I didn't want to embarrass my son, but it was just such a genuine moment. Son really thought this poor tester was losing his marbles. Thankfully son answered the question never once he realized it was a question for him and not a statement on the tester's own life. LOL. Stories number 26. A man in an Ohio Walmart this morning tries to buy half a cauliflower. The young assistant tells him they only sell whole cauliflowers. The man persists and asks to see the manager. The boy says he'll ask his manager about it. Walking into the back room, the boy said to his manager, "Some shit for brains out there wants to buy half a cauliflower." As he finished his sentence, he turned to find the man standing right behind him, so he quickly added, "And this gentleman has kindly offered to buy the other half." The manager approved the deal, and the man went on his way. Later, the manager said to the boy, "I was impressed with the way you got yourself out of that situation. We like people who think on their feet here." "Where are you from, son?" "California, sir," the boy replied. "Well, why did you leave California?" the manager asked. The boy said, "Sir, there's nothing but porn stars and cheerleaders up there." "Really?" said the manager. "My wife is from California." "You're kidding," replied the boy. "Who'd she cheer for?" Stories number 27. Can you move the car somewhere else? I was at Walmart with my mom and my kids. My youngest daughter, who was a newborn at the time, had gotten fussy, so I carried her and the kids to the car to nurse her while my mom fished up and checked out. We're parked close to the door and the store is pretty busy as it's a weekend. As I'm getting the kids situated in the car, a lady directly behind us honks her horn and yells out the window asking if we are leaving yet because apparently she had been waiting. I tell her no, my mom was still inside and I'm just feeding my baby while we wait. She then asks if I could move the car to another spot and just pick my mom up at the door when she comes out because she really wanted a spot close to the door. I gave her a polite no thank you, and hopped in the front passenger seat with the baby to end the conversation. Stories number 28. Is the name I chose for my baby a strategy or cultural appropriation? I'm ethnically Chinese and the baby's father is ethnically Russian and Chinese. He is not involved in the baby's life and I am the sole caregiver for my son, so I chose my son's name and registered it. Despite being Russian and Chinese, the baby's father just looks Russian and my baby took after him and doesn't have East Asian features like me. I really like the name Yuri because it's a Slavic name, but also used in some East Asian countries like Japan and Korea. Chinese names are really different and there are no crossovers that I could find between Chinese and Russian names. After researching some alternative spellings for Yuri online, I chose Yuri. My name starts with a J, so I liked that my son and I could both have that in common. After finding out what I named the baby, his father is really angry and started ranting that Yuri is the only correct spelling of the name and that I don't know anything because I'm Chinese and not from that culture. Is Yuri a tradigay or me culturally appropriating the name? Stories number 29. Aita for being frustrated that my SIL's financial situation is stopping us from buying a home. My husband doctor and I part-time healthcare live in a 2-bed flat owned by his dad. We've been paying the mortgage as rent. When times were tight, maternity leave, husband's pay cut, my FIL covered us. The mortgage has recently been paid off, so we gratefully live here rent-free and are trying to save aggressively. But it's not sustainable. We have 3 kids, 10F, 4M, 2M who share a bedroom. We never bought our own place because in 2017, my husband was emotionally pressured into going on his sister's dentist mortgage to buy a 5-bed house. This was before he met me. He doesn't pay towards it, his income was used to boost her borrowing. At the time, it was presented as the family home, where his parents would retire. His father provided the deposit. My husband was promised that he would not be disadvantaged and get help to buy a house later. In 2018, they did a big reno. Last year she became pregnant with twins, 5 kids. They started another big reno, going from 2 reception, 5-bed and 3-bath to 4 reception rooms, 6/7 beds and 5 baths and an extra kitchenette. Everything has been extended, remodeled and refitted again in 7 years. I'm guessing around £200,000 from FIL has gone into this. The current plan, devised with a mortgage advisor, is we sell our flat FILs, get a deposit for a house and move into a rental. They use £100,000 from the sale to remortgage to get my husband off. But there's a catch, she has credit card to pay, she needs to get rid of her car, finance 2 brand new EVs. She has to increase her salary and complete tax returns. Until she does those things, her borrowing power isn't high enough. As her debts/liabilities and declared earnings currently stand, she would only be able to remortgage for a small amount. She needs 18x what was calculated. She spends freely and goes on expensive holidays. She's already talking about an island getaway for her 40th birthday. In the meantime, we could be stuck in a rental and sitting on our deposit in a bank, just waiting. I want us to hold off on selling until she's actually ticked the boxes, otherwise we bear all the risk with no guarantee of being able to buy. One idea was to use equity from the flat sale, on top of 100k to boost her borrowing, to help her pay down her debts and liabilities. This seems insane after they just spent 200k on unnecessary renovations, but it might be our only way out. I know it's her personal finances, but her decisions directly affect our future. I'm being told not to have feelings about it or be upset, as it's not our money. But am I the AH for being frustrated, when my 3 kids are sharing one room and our future depends on her paying her debts? Relevant info. My husband has never paid her mortgage. She pays it, her husband doesn't work so can't go on it. My husband has not paid into her house in any other way, i.e. deposit/down payment. We have small savings of our own 20k, but we need a bigger deposit to stay in this area. Otherwise, mortgage advisor said we were good to go and would easily be able to buy and afford a house with some help on the deposit/down payment. I'm willing to rent long term, but husband doesn't want to pay someone else's mortgage and is hopeful his family will get their finances in order and help him out. We pay our own bills, childcare, and living costs. We drive 11-year-old cars and holiday once a year. Our debts are low and we're trying to save more aggressively. All the £200,000 has been spent on SIL's house. FIL works abroad. Update. My husband DH and his dad met with the mortgage advisor as mentioned in my first post. It was clear how dire the prospects were for SIL to afford the mortgage on her own. The loan was too big and she had lots of debts and liabilities. The plan was, FIL would sell the flat we live in which he owns and use the funds to pay down SIL's house loan and her credit card and shopping debts, so she can refinance on her own. My husband would also get help with a large down payment for a house. FIL always assured DH he would not be disadvantaged by the other mortgage and would get significant help to buy. DH went to visit them yesterday, and found them ripping out the floor of the kitchen, the new one costing thousands of pounds. This kitchen was extended, remodeled and fitted in 2019 and cost upwards of 20k. He wasn't happy. I guess it became immediately clear to him that they're not capable or interested in making good financial decisions. Everyone also forgot that my MIL and co-owns the flat we live in. My husband doesn't want to take any money from the sale of the flat for a deposit, as it will disadvantage his mother who is retired. So the flat has been listed to sell, the proceeds will go to MIL and FIL only. FIL will use his share, 100 to 150k, to bail out my SAL. My husband's name can finally come off the mortgage of her 1.1 million house. She still needs to lose the new cars. It was a little upsetting for my husband yesterday, but he's at peace with it. After all, it was never his money and his dad can do what he wants with it. He won't get a deposit, and that's okay. We are worse off than if we had never been involved. House prices have gone up, we need a bigger deposit now, and he has wasted years waiting around on promises of help. The help never came. He was used as collateral so they could keep a house and cling to a lifestyle they can't afford. But it does also feel like a weight has been lifted and he is going to be free. Not strung along for years in a toxic cycle of obligation and disappointment. We're currently looking for a long-term rental nearby, somewhere with 3 bedrooms and a garden for our kids. We're also planning on meeting a financial advisor to come up with an achievable plan to save hard for our own house, and for our children's future on our own. If buying a house isn't meant to happen for us, then so be it. We're walking away with peace of mind, a clean slate, and the ability to make decisions for ourselves without interference or reliance on others. Stories number 30. Aita for telling my nightmare of a roommate. I'm moving out when I know she cannot afford living on her own. So to start this long story off, I moved in with my roommate, former best friend, after their mother passed away in 2020 from non-COVID related things. It started off great for the most part. Me being a single mother with a dog and them losing their home due to living with her mother and not having anywhere else to go. It took about a year for things to go south. It started with them refusing to pay more than $250 for a place that cost over $800 a month. Anytime I would attempt to talk to them, I would either get a glazed over look and them zoning out or a door shut in my face regarding the matter. The only time I managed to make a little bit of headway, their only claim is cause I have my child there so they won't pay more before. Again the conversation would go into either the glazed over look or a door in my face. So with that I learned to just suffer and deal. Then I would have to start cleaning up after them, first with them not taking out the trash and just leaving it by the door. Then with them never cleaning the toilet or bathtub despite my efforts to make a cleaning schedule, followed by dishes being left for days at a time in the sink, or talking to them about said cleaning issues. I yet again was met with the glazed over look and or door shut in face. During this time too they also had constant issues with working regularly, either calling out constantly or medical problems of various degrees. I know my guilt with this fact alone led me to for a time stop bringing up these problems as frequently. Well, over 2 years ago I met and started dating my boyfriend. Since about 6 months into the relationship I have been staying pretty much nightly at his place, visiting mine just for things I need and taking care of my dog. Otherwise I don't sleep or eat there, neither does my kid. Yet still I would come home to a nasty bathroom, a sink full of dishes and full trash bags being left in front of the door constantly, and any time I would try to bring up the issues I was met with still the same glazed over look and or the door being shut in my face. The other thing that has been holding me back mentally from all of this is that my roommate fell for a scam, hard. They tried to get a sugar daddy online and instead ended up buying them a new phone with a credit card and gift cards, to which they got their credit cards shut down entirely and now they owe over $20,000 in credit card debt. So due to guilt I yet again internalized my problems with them and tried to be a mostly supportive friend. Stories number 31. Aita for telling my dad that I don't like his wife after 20 years knowing her. For the first time in my life, I 28F got into a big argument with my dad. Context: my parents got divorced when I was 5, he almost immediately moved in with her. I lived with my mom, went there every other weekend and half of school holidays. The best moment of the weekend was the drive back and forth, since, most of the time, it was only the two of us. The rest of the time was spent with my stepmothers and 2 of her children. To today, my wife and I are buying a house and I asked him if he could check it out on Wednesday. His answer: just trust the estate agent. He doesn't have time because he may watch my stepsister's kids. He's watching those kids every fucking week on the year. He's been doing that for years and always complains about how much energy it takes. I felt let down because he rarely has the occasion to show me that he cares. We have a cordial yet not deep relationship. That was one of the biggest steps of my life and he didn't even try to be a part of it. I thought that maybe he was hurt by the fact that we didn't invite him to our current house, so I told him it wasn't personal, that I had nothing against him, but that I didn't feel like having my stepmother at my place because she's always been mean to me, but he was welcome to come by himself. He refused, got offended that he discovered that I didn't like his wife. Like, open your eyes, she hates on me all the time. He said I needed to let go of the past. Offered to get dinner some day soon to talk it out. I insisted to talk it out on the phone because I didn't feel like seeing him and that it was no conversation to have in a restaurant. Here are some examples of why I can't stand her anymore. Are they exaggerated? Is he right and I should let go of them? When I was doing ballet 5 to 6 years old, she'd say that I was too fat to dance. She forced me to get my armpits and legs waxed at 10 because she was afraid that me shaving would look bad on her wedding pics. It hurt like hell by the way, and I still remember how I felt like shit. Didn't like me staying at home doing homework, reading, or playing video games, so I had to go out and hang out with my stepsister's friends. She made homophonic comments about gay marriage when she had the chance after I came out. She encouraged me to get sleep with men, in case it turned me straight. 14 at the time. I never told my dad. Called me too fat when I was 16 for a whole summer. Called me too skinny at 18. I became super self-conscious of my body and lost a lot of weight. She undermined all my successes, especially school-related ones. She talked behind my back a lot to other family members. She would always disagree with me about everything. She would spend whole dinners talking about her me being a vegetarian is wrong and stupid. Never said a single wrong word about her son's vegetarian girlfriend though. She gives me the cold shoulder very often or just acts super cold when I'm around. 23 years knowing her and 1.5 years old therapy later, I finally unloaded what I had to say. My dad thinks he did his best as a dad, that she has nothing against me and that I'm still in the past. He's now blaming my wife for my changing behavior. I used to be afraid to speak up for myself. I'm not his girl anymore, because I don't smile as much as I used to. I'm done putting up a nice face when I'm being walked all over, thanks. Well Dad, it's called therapy. Was I wrong? Am I really living in the past? Should I have accepted his invite to talk about it face to face? First of all, thank you to all the people who took the time to read me and comment. Your support has been amazing. Here is an update since some of you asked for it. I tried to keep it short but it's not easy. Hope I'm not too long. My big brother texted me yesterday evening asking why I took such a big decision and saying that Dad is not doing okay. I called my brother this morning to talk about it. To make a long story short, my brother's version, I'm screwing the family dynamic and making things hard on my dad. Therapy is mostly bullshit and I'm just being difficult. My mom complained as well. I've been parentified and finally, a few months ago, felt brave enough to set boundaries. I've not been nice to my dad because I didn't give him my address a few months ago. My dad asked for my address and said he'd stop by without warning as he always does. I told him not to do, I hated it. He brushed it off. I never gave him my address to keep my peace and quiet. I shouldn't have said anything about my stepmother and should think about the consequences it has on the whole family. That my words have been too harsh. My reply, I didn't tell him his wife was a fucking bitch even though it's my opinion, so no, I haven't been too harsh. It changes everything for everyone. I should be more thankful to my parents. I shouldn't be so hard and let people have their way, or I should have spoken before. My version, I've never been brave enough to talk my truth. Both my brothers have had the chance to live their lives. I was the one behind, taking care of my mom and basically being her parent. I have a right to decide for myself. I can refuse calls after 8 p.m., decide who I want in my home, say no when I don't want things to happen. I needed therapy because I've been complacent with everyone my whole life. I finally deserve a chance to live my own life and I'm setting my rules. Accept them, don't discuss them, and either stay or leave. After having had my brother on the phone, I decided to call my dad. Apparently he understood that I didn't want to see him with his wife anymore. What I meant was, I don't want her in my home. I told my dad that my home was my safe space and I didn't want people I wasn't comfortable around in it. He laughed, said he loved me, but my reasoning was stupid. I told him she hurt me and I made a list if he wanted examples. He laughed about me making a list. I gave examples, he excused them all, said I exaggerated. According to him, I was well treated, she didn't beat me or abuse me, I was fed and she did things for me. He couldn't give me a single example of what she did for me. He didn't care about anything on the list from my previous post, brushed it off. Even when I told him, he never defended me. He said I was still his daughter, he loved me but wasn't going to see me without his wife that we would call anyway. He added that his wife has been crying for days about it, like WTF. He told me I should have talked to her. I told him I never felt safe enough to talk to her face to face. But I could call her. Now, should I call her to tell her why I basically hate her? I just can't decide. It'd be liberating and nobody could use the argument, you should be an adult and talk to her directly, but at the same time it feels weird to call someone why you hate them. I've always been conflict avoidant, so this is all so new to me. Stories number 32. A greedy old businessman was dying, so he called his priest, his lawyer, and his accountant to his bedside. They say you can't take it with you, but I am certainly going to try, wheezed the businessman. When I die I want each of you to take 1/3 of my money and throw it into my grave as they are burying me. The three started to protest, but the businessman stated, it's my money and I will do what I want with it. The three reluctantly agree. A few days later the man dies. At his funeral the priest, the lawyer, and the accountant do as directed and each throw in a bag of money into the grave just as the coffin is being buried. After the funeral, they start talking as they walk back to their cars. I have a confession to make, says the priest. When I thought of all the poor that could be helped by that man's money, I decided to take a portion of it and donate it to the orphanage. As long as we are confessing, says the lawyer, I need an oceanside vacation home, so I too took a handful of that geezer's cash to use as a down payment. Gentlemen, I am ashamed of both of you, replies the accountant. I will have you know that I threw in a check for the full amount. My upstairs neighbors had a midnight meltdown, and the plot twist nearly broke my brain. Last night, right around midnight, I was curled up watching Netflix when I heard what I thought was a surround sound action movie blasting from upstairs. Yelling, stomping, doors slamming, the whole 9 yards. Except, nope. Not a movie. It was my upstairs neighbors having a blowout. At first, I brushed it off, apartment life, you learn to ignore noise. But then I hear the guy shout, fine. Then you tell him yourself. That's when I muted my TV real quick. The girlfriend screams back, I never even wanted him in the first place. Then comes more stomping, something heavy crashing to the floor, and I'm sitting on my couch like, do I dial 911 or make popcorn? And then, plot twist of the century. A third voice. A man's voice. Calm. Steady. Like he'd been there the whole time, just waiting. He says, this isn't about me. This is about you lying to yourself, y'all. I almost choked. There was a third guy in the apartment. Everything went dead quiet for 30 long seconds. Then, AM. Doors slam, heavy footsteps down the stairs, and the boyfriend storms out carrying a duffel bag. Seconds later. Tires screech, car speeds off. I thought that was the grand finale, but nope. 20 minutes later. Music. Laughter. Footsteps. And let's just say the ceiling fan above my bed was working overtime like it was applying for hazard pay. Flushed face. This morning, I head out for work, and who do I see chilling on the balcony with a mug of coffee? The girlfriend. And Mr. Calm third voice himself. Like nothing happened. But wait. It gets better. As I'm unlocking my car, guess who pulls back into the lot? The boyfriend. With a bouquet of flowers in hand. I don't know how this drama ends, but I already know I've got the best seat in the house. Update, same day, 6 p.m. came home and all three of them were outside having what looked like the talk. Boyfriend pacing, girlfriend arms crossed, and third guy leaning on the railing like he owned the building. Couldn't hear the words, but when I went inside, the yelling started all over again. So yeah. Episode 2 might be dropping tonight. Update 2, the next night. So, remember how yesterday I said I might be witnessing episode 2? Yeah. It dropped. And oh boy, it was a two-parter. I get home around 7:30 p.m., and things seem calm at first. Lights are on upstairs, I hear faint talking, but nothing wild. I'm thinking maybe they sorted things out, maybe Flowers fixed it, maybe the third guy went home. Nope. Around 9 p.m., the yelling starts again. I can't make out every word, but I distinctly hear the boyfriend shouting something like, "You embarrassed me in front of the entire building," and then the girlfriend fires back, "You wouldn't even be embarrassed if you actually listened to me for once. Now I'm trying to mind my own business, but when you live in paper-thin walled apartments, you get a free front row ticket whether you like it or not." And then, enter calm third guy. Except this time, not so calm. His voice was low, but sharp. He says, "This is exactly what I meant yesterday. You're not mad at me. You're mad because she finally told the truth." Excuse me? The truth? At this point, I've turned my Netflix down to 0 and I'm sitting there like I'm watching a live soap opera. The boyfriend explodes again, "You're not even supposed to be here. Get out of my apartment." To which third guy answers, completely unfazed, "Your name isn't even on the lease." Skull skull skull, y'all. My jaw hit the floor. After that bombshell, there's a lot of stomping, shuffling, what sounds like furniture being dragged, and then another door slam. But this time, it wasn't the boyfriend leaving. It was third guy. I peeked through the blinds just enough to catch him leaving the building, hoodie up, walking like he just dropped the mic at a rap battle. 10 minutes later, silence. But here's the kicker, about an hour later, I hear muffled crying. Not yelling, not stomping, just the girlfriend, sobbing quietly. And then the boyfriend's voice, softer this time, saying things like, I didn't know. I didn't know, okay? Why didn't you tell me sooner? It wasn't loud enough to catch everything, but the whole tone had shifted from rage to devastation. Fast forward to this morning, when I left for work, there was no boyfriend. No third guy. Just the girlfriend sitting on the balcony alone, wrapped in a blanket, staring off like she was waiting for the season finale recap. I don't know what went down after I fell asleep, but whatever truth got revealed last night, it changed everything. Do I want to know? Yes. Will I ever know? Probably not. But until then, I'll keep my popcorn stocked and my TV on mute. Update 3, finale, a couple days later. Okay, y'all. Strap in. Because the apartment soap opera has reached its peak. So after the last update, the night of the truth, things actually went quiet for 2 full days. No yelling, no stomping, no third guy came by. I honestly thought maybe the drama was over. Then last night around 11 p.m., it all kicked off again. This time I hear the boyfriend's voice first, but he doesn't sound angry. He sounds exhausted. Like the fight had been going on way before I tuned in. I hear him say, if you wanted him, you should have just told me years ago. Years ago. The girlfriend fires back through tears. I didn't want him. I just didn't want to be stuck with you. Oof. I'm clutching my blanket like it's the last lifeboat on the Titanic at this point. And then, yep, you guessed it, third guy enters the chat. Except this time, his tone isn't calm, it's firm. He says, this can't keep happening. You need to make a choice tonight. Him or me. Complete silence follows. Like the air itself stopped moving. Then I hear the girlfriend whisper, and I only caught this because my window was cracked open. I don't want either of you. I just want to be free of this. And then, crying. Both her and the boyfriend. A few minutes later, there's movement upstairs, doors slamming, drawers opening, zippers. It sounds like bags being packed. Then, heavy footsteps down the stairs. I peeked outside, low-key pretending to take my trash out at midnight, don't judge me, and see the boyfriend leaving with 2 duffel bags. He looked wrecked. Didn't say a word, just got into his car and drove off. 5 minutes later, third guy comes down. He doesn't leave with bags, just walks out the front door, lights a cigarette, and paces the parking lot. After a while, he gets into his car and drives away too. And the girlfriend? She's upstairs, alone. Lights off by 1 a.m. This morning when I left for work, the balcony was empty. No flowers, no coffee, no laughter. Just silence. It feels like whatever storm they were caught in, it finally broke. And honestly, I think that was the real ending. Not boyfriend versus third guy. Not some big reveal. Just, the girlfriend realizing she didn't want either. The drama may be over, but wow, what a ride. TLDR. My upstairs neighbors had a midnight screaming match that revealed a mysterious third guy. Turns out the girlfriend was torn between boyfriend and third guy, but after days of fighting, she told them both she didn't want either of them. Boyfriend packed up and left, third guy drove away, and now she's alone in the apartment. Season finale complete.